Chapter 764. She was just the daughter of the owner of a tea plantation. Although her life was very rich, it could not be compared to our Chu clan. Moreover, she wasn't from a martial arts family. She was just a very, very ordinary woman. So, at that time, my father flew into a rage and forced me to cut off all contact with her. He even arranged a marriage for me. The old man smiled proudly. At that time, I was the first successor of the clan. But at that time, I only said one sentence: "If you dare, I will die." My father was so angry that he left. Then I lowered my status and gave my position to my second brother. Seeing that I was so resolute, my father could only accept it. The old man smiled calmly. Chu Yang clicked his tongue. Although he said it calmly now, Chu Yang could completely imagine how shocking it was at that time. Then I was immersed in happiness. Other than practicing martial arts, I was with him. Occasionally, I would bring him out to the pugilistic world to relax. Then we became brothers. We searched for treasures together, fought together, and laughed proudly in the pugilistic world. From youth to old age, the old man smiled calmly. So, my cultivation improved day by day. No matter what I did, my heart was always calm. I did not have the time to be heartless. I also did not have the opportunity to cultivate the heartless way. The old man smiled faintly. But it was only a long time later that I realized that my cultivation method had already deviated from traditional martial arts. Or rather, it was already the opposite of all martial arts. So, for 15 years, my cultivation did not improve at all. I was always vexed. Should I change? The old man smiled and reminisced. It was at that time that I met Ning Tianya for the first time. At that time, I did not know his identity. I only thought that he was an old man. When he saw me sitting on the mountain peak, he asked me what was the matter. At that time, I had no one to talk to and thought that he was just an ordinary old man. So, I told him everything. The old man chuckled. After Ning Tianya heard everything, he said, "Did you kill those who should be killed?" At that time, I said, "Why didn't I kill those who should be killed?" He said, "Since you can kill, are you heartless or sentimental?" I said, "If we don't kill bad people, are we going to keep them around to harm good people?" He laughed and said, "This is the path of sentiment." Chu Yang was immersed in this. When he heard these words, he suddenly felt his heart skip a beat. A long time after he left, I still couldn't react. It wasn't until 3 years later that I understood that there was no such thing as the path of emotion or path of heartlessness in this world. It all depends on why you cultivate, why you kill, and whether your heart is at peace, happy, or ruthless after killing. The so-called path of ruthlessness is to kill for the sake of killing. If there is a disagreement, you will draw your saber. In this way, as time goes by, you will naturally train your heart to be as cold as ice. Everything is considered from the perspective of life and death. Everything is based on strength, and the strong will be respected. Over time, he became arrogant and egotistical. Everything he does is based on himself, and he has lost his sense of self. 35,888. The sentient path will also kill and plunder, but their motives are different. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If people offend me, I have no qualms about killing them. In this way, they are both egotistical, but this egotistical includes many things. So from here, we started to differentiate between the sentient path and the heartless path. Once they are separated, there will be differences. The arrogance, egotistical, and bloodthirsty of the heartless path is the inner demon. But this has a great advantage, which is to cut off all attachments and only care about walking towards the peak. So, the cultivation of the heartless path is faster. But there is a limit. Although I don't know where this limit is with my current cultivation, I can feel that such a heartless path will definitely not develop endlessly in the future, because it doesn't conform to the heavenly Tao. And the reason why no one has been able to reach the peak of the sentient path is because sentient path needs to have an eternal spiritual sustenance in the depths of one's emotions. Some people lose it halfway or break down, or have their true feelings worn away by time. They forget about the past and stop for life. The old man smiled proudly. The reason why they can't cultivate the sentient path is that they don't love deeply enough. They don't love deeply enough. So, once a partner dies, they can still recall it for a short time, but after a long time, they will forget. Time and forgetfulness are the most terrifying things in the world. And since you cultivate the sentient path but forget your own feelings, how can you reach the peak? Chu Yang suddenly came to a realization. He was on the path of sentiment, yet he had forgotten his past. After my wife left, I always thought that she was still accompanying me. Her teacup, her tea, her breath, her gaze, are all the same as before. The latest chapter of the Holy Hall. So, when I live here, you may feel sad and feel that I live in pain, but I am enjoying myself. Because no one comes to disturb us. I have a peaceful mind and don't pay attention to cultivation, but my cultivation naturally improves by leaps and bounds. The old man sighed tiredly and said, "This is my sentient path. My sentient path is because of deep love. But the sentient path that you cultivate is your own sentient path." Chu Yang had left the cottage for a long time, but he had been wandering alone in this desolate forest outside the courtyard for a long time. What the old man had said was his sentient path. And it was very vague, causing Chu Yang to be unable to see clearly in that illusory realm. He couldn't understand it at all. He seemed to have realized something but also didn't. It was hazy, and he could see clearly, but he couldn't feel it. Sentient path. Heartless path. Chu Yang stepped on the dried grass under his feet, deep in thought. The sky darkened, and night fell. The moon rose in the east and set in the west. The sun rose, and the world was bright, and so on. When Chu Yang finally felt tired, he had already stayed in this forest for 3 days. When he fell, he only felt numbness and pain in his legs, as if they were about to break off from his body. It turned out that he had been deep in thought for the past 3 days and 3 nights, unconsciously walking in circles in this forest, and his footsteps never stopped for a moment. He really didn't know how many thousands of miles he had walked in these 3 days and 3 nights, and he couldn't use his cultivation now, and was equivalent to an ordinary person. It would be strange if he didn't feel pain. Although he sat down, he was still thinking. Suddenly he said, "Sword Spirit, do you understand?" The Sword Spirit smiled. "You need to comprehend this realm yourself. If I tell you, your sentient path will be ruined. I can't comprehend it for now." Chu Yang shook his head. "I've thought a lot, but I feel that it's too troublesome. It's not my sentient path." He let out a long breath. "I finally understand what the old ancestor said. Without reaching a certain realm, one can't differentiate between sentient path and heartless path. The current me may not have reached that realm yet." The Sword Spirit didn't speak. Chu Yang smiled and said, "This can't be forced. Maybe when the time is right, success will come naturally. Now, I'd better follow my heart and walk on. True feelings are the true self. I can't change my true feelings for anyone or for any reason. That's it. In the future, I'll comprehend it. But I also have to remember the old ancestors' words. I can't suppress myself in the future. I'm a real hero who laughs and cries, a real man who loves and cries. How can I, Chu Yang, be locked down by myself?" As he spoke, he seemed to have completely let go. His body relaxed as he fell backwards onto the dried ground. He groaned and said, "That really hurt. I'm so tired." The Sword Spirit smiled bitterly. "You're still in the dark. How dare you say that you haven't comprehended anything? After experiencing Chu Xiaoxin's life and witnessing his path of sentiments, you can still maintain your true self. This is the beginning of your path of sentiments. You've already stepped 1 foot into it, but you say that you don't know anything, and I can't suppress myself in the future. I'm a real hero who laughs and cries, a real man who loves and cries. How can I, Chu Yang, be locked down by myself?" If you can really do this, you'll have already let go of the shackles on your true self. After getting the essence of your sentient path, you actually still want to comprehend it in the future? I really don't know what you'll comprehend in the future. But the Sword Spirit didn't say anything. This kind of muddle-headed cultivation was actually a very good thing for Chu Yang. When he finally understood this layer of truth, There would definitely be a new breakthrough that would allow him to be reborn. The sword spirit was looking forward to seeing what kind of enlightenment King of Hell Chu would have when the time came, even though he had always been smart. Or, it would be unexpected again? In the thatched cottage, the elder standing in front of the portrait suddenly smiled. Then, as if he was relieved, he sat on the chair and brewed a new pot of tea. He still filled the 5 teacups completely. He smiled and said softly, "Little tea brothers, please. Try my skills and see if there's any improvement." The beautiful eyes of the portrait on the wall were deeply focused. A breeze blew, and the portrait moved slightly. The clothes of the person in the portrait fluttered, as if she pitied the loneliness of the man below and was about to step down. Chu Xiongqing and Chu Feiling stood quietly outside the forest, looking at Chu Yang. The two of them had been standing here for 3 days and 3 nights. Their faces were full of hardships. Since Chu Yang started to comprehend, the two of them had been standing here without moving. They were worried, but they were also afraid of disturbing him. Further away, under a tree, Yang Rulin was hiding behind it. She stood quietly and secretly looked at her son from afar. Her eyes were full of heartache. She didn't dare to go forward, because a mother's heart could easily erode a hero's spirit. If her son knew that his mother was by his side, his heart wouldn't be so firm. He would feel that he had someone to rely on. So, Yang Rulin could only watch secretly. Seeing that Chu Yang finally stood up and walked towards his father and grandfather, Yang Rulin bit her chin and hurriedly left. She couldn't let her son know that she had been here. It would affect his martial arts heart. Let's go back. Chu Feiling looked at his son and Chu Xiongqing looked at his grandson. They said this in unison, but didn't mention anything else. But Chu Yang's heart warmed. When Chu Xiongqing received the small wooden sword from Chu Yang, Chu Xiongqing's mouth was as wide as a hippopotamus, and he didn't close it for a long time. He looked at Chu Yang in shock and didn't say anything for a long time. The Chu clan has a killing order. If one day it passes from someone's hand to your hand, that person will have the power to decide the life and death of all the members of the Chu clan. This is the ancestral order. Remember, it can be anyone. In his memory, the elders said this coldly. Chu Xiongqing only felt that his head was in a mess. "Clan Master, there are 2 law enforcement officers from the law enforcement hall requesting to see you. They want to ask you some questions." At this moment, a warrior came to report. Chu Xiongqing frowned. Chu Yang was also shocked. Could it be that the matter has been exposed? Chapter 765. Chu Xiongqing suddenly turned around and looked at Chu Yang. The two of them looked at each other silently. They must be here because of what happened that night. After all, the appearance of a divine doctor like you is too coincidental. Old Master Chu frowned and said, "And this matter was done by the enforcers. The clan can't interfere. You have to depend on yourself." "I know," Chu Yang said lightly. "They can't blame me for something that I didn't do." "Grandpa, don't worry." Old Master Chu sighed. "Can't you blame me for something that I didn't do? You're too naive, aren't you? You can kill someone based on a suspicion, let alone such a big matter. To the enforcers, what's the big deal if they wrongly kill half a person? Go. Be careful." Old Master Chu sighed. His expression was gloomy. "Don't tell my mother about this first," Chu Yang said. "I'm afraid she already knows." Chu Xiongqing smiled bitterly. The enforcers never hide their actions. Since he came to the Chu clan so brazenly, how can your mother not know? Chu Yang's face darkened and he said heavily, "Damn the enforcers." Following the 2 enforcers out of the gate of the Chu clan, Chu Yang couldn't help but turn back. His mother was right behind him. She almost couldn't stand. Her face was pale and she was swaying as if she was going to fall. She was only standing there with the help of his father. Chu Yang stood upright and said seriously, "Mother, I'll be back." His words were resolute and decisive, and they were filled with convincing power. Yang Ruolan's nerves, which were on the verge of collapse, seemed to have gotten a little support after hearing this sentence. She gazed deeply and said softly, "I'll wait for you to come back." Chu Yang nodded, turned around resolutely and strode away. At the gate of the Chu clan, Chu Tinghu and the other brothers revealed a trace of joy in their eyes. Chu Xiongqing's face was full of worry. Chu Feiling's face was solemn, and his temples were throbbing faintly. The two enforcers, one on the left and one on the right, accompanied Chu Yang. Their backpacks were filled with purple crystals that Chu Xiongqing had stuffed into their backpacks. Master Chu gave a heavy gift. Please take care of your grandson, second law enforcers. Shao, you still want to go back? The two enforcers clearly snorted at Chu Yang's words. How many people can come out unscathed after entering the law hall? Those who uphold the second law cannot be unreasonable. On the contrary, although the Hall of Justice has a terrible reputation, it's the only place in the Chongtian continent that talks about right and wrong. Chu Yang said lightly, if I didn't make a mistake and didn't violate the heavenly laws, why can't I come back? It's not up to you to decide whether or not you've made a mistake. It's up to us, the Hall of Law Enforcers, to decide. The Hall of Law Enforcer on the left said lightly. Of course. Chu Yang's voice was also very indifferent. As he walked forward, he turned a corner, and the Chu clan behind him was already out of sight. On this street, a person was walking with big strides. Suddenly, this person let out a sound of surprise. Then, he stopped in front of Chu Yang. Chu Yang? Why is it you? Where are you going? Chu Yang looked at him fixedly and said indifferently, Don't you know where I'm going? My second uncle? This person was Chu Fei Long, who had been missing for 4 days. To think that he would suddenly appear here at this moment. But his appearance confirmed the worries that Chu Yang had in his heart. Therefore, Chu Yang didn't hold back when he spoke. When Chu Fei Long heard this, he seemed to be startled. Then, he looked up at the two people beside Chu Yang. His pupils contracted. May I ask the two Hall of Law Enforcers, what crime has my nephew committed? The two Hall of Law Enforcers looked at Chu Fei Long and said, Chu Fei Long, we still have to decide what crime your nephew has committed. Chu Fei Long was startled. Then he took a step back and said, May the Hall of Law Enforcers impartially enforce the second law and give my nephew justice. My nephew has just returned home. He doesn't know much about the upper three heavens. If he has offended you, please forgive him. The Hall of Law Enforcers smiled insincerely and said, Chu Fei Long, you talk too much. Chu Fei Long stepped aside and said to Chu Yang, Yang, don't worry. I'll go back home to take a look at the situation. Then, I'll go to the Hall of Law Enforcers to pick you up. Chu Yang said lightly, Thank you, second uncle. The three of them walked past Chu Fei Long. Chu Fei Long seemed to be in a daze for a while. Then, he suddenly stood up and rushed back to his clan. The sword spirit said, It seems to be Chu Fei Long's doing. Chu Yang sneered, Definitely. Chu Yang was thinking. Chu Yang finally understood what Chu Feilong had been doing these days when he had disappeared. Chu Yang reckoned that Chu Feilong had been investigating this matter ever since it had happened. And that night, Chu Yang had immediately started the treatment, and Chu Feilong had disappeared at that time. He must have gone to the Hall of Law Enforcers. Then this matter was undoubtedly done by him. Chu Yang's only suspicion was, it's unreasonable for Chu Fei Long to appear here now. Is it just to say something that doesn't hurt me? It's obviously impossible. With Chu Fei Long's scheming mind, it's obviously impossible for him to do something so childish as to gloat over Chu Yang's misfortune. Then, the only possibility is that there's some information in the few words that he said just now, but Chu Yang didn't discover anything even after analyzing each sentence. Everything was said in a very ordinary manner. This made Chu Yang very uncomfortable. It was as if all the Hall of Law Enforcers in the world were as gloomy and heavy as this one. All the furnishings were dark and gloomy, giving people a feeling of oppression. It was as if they were in the legendary hell, which was full of gloom and terror. It made people tremble with fear the moment they entered this place. The two iron plate enforcers brought Chu Yang to this place, and then retreated. There were two people inside. Chu Yang looked over and saw a person sitting on a chair. His face was a little pale, and his left shoulder was hanging limply. He was motionless. The other person was a bald old man. His white beard fluttered in the wind. His eyes were as fierce and cruel as the vultures in the desert. Both of them were looking at Chu Yang. They were closely watching Chu Yang's movements. Chu Yang stood 10 feet in front of them and looked at them innocently. Heroes indeed come from the young. The bald old man laughed wildly like an owl and said, I didn't expect young Master Chu to be such a great divine doctor at such a young age. Sorry for the disrespect. Chu Yang looked at him with some fear and said hesitantly, This called me here? I don't know. I don't know. He seemed to be so scared that he couldn't continue. What are you afraid of? The bald old man looked at Chu Yang and stared at him intently. A quiet aura also locked onto Chu Yang's whole body, including his heartbeat, pulse, sweat pores, eyes, even the contraction of his pores and other minute situations were all under the observation of this bald old man. The sword spirit quietly began to respond. Sweat rolled down Chu Yang's face. He said somewhat incoherently, How can I not be afraid? This is the Hall of Law Enforcers. The moment I came in, I felt afraid, he said intermittently. His pulse, eyes, and heartbeat were also constantly changing according to his fear. His heart was beating like a drum. He was a coward who suddenly became an archduke from the grassroots, but he could not avoid the inferiority complex in his bones, as well as some pride that he forced himself to feel. You don't have any cultivation? The bald old man frowned. After this observation, he found that the other party didn't have any Xian cultivation. This was strange. Could it be that this young master of the Chu clan was just an ordinary person? No, I have, Chu Yang said loudly. He seemed to be full of resentment. Then he lowered his head dejectedly. It's a pity that it was crippled. With a swoosh, this bald old man had already reached Chu Yang's side and grabbed his wrist. Chu Yang's body seemed to subconsciously retreat. He tried to dodge, but he didn't. His face showed pain and annoyance. In the eyes of these two great experts, it was, I could have dodged, but my cultivation was crippled and I couldn't. It was such a desolate look. The bald old man snorted and said, You can't dodge my technique as long as you're not at the monarch level or above. You're so young. Could it be that you were at the monarch level before you were crippled? This sentence was obviously mocking. But then, his expression became serious and he said, You were indeed crippled. The person who crippled you was very clever and overbearing. The sword spirit had quietly blocked Chu Yang's dantian and meridians. Cooperate with his investigation. Do you know who crippled you? The bald old man asked with burning eyes. At the same time, he looked at Qin Baoshan and nodded slightly. Qin Baoshan seemed to be relieved. I don't know, Chu Yang said dejectedly. Who's your master? The bald old man asked. Du Shiqing, Chu Yang answered fluently. Du Shiqing? The two were surprised. What kind of person was Du Shiqing? My master is known as the #1 divine doctor in the lower 3 heavens. He can revive the dead. His medical skills are earth-shattering. Chu Yang puffed out his chest proudly. If you don't believe me, you can ask around in the lower 3 heavens. There should be very few people in the lower 3 heavens who don't know my master. The #1 divine doctor in the lower 3 heavens? The eyebrows of the bald old man and Qin Baoshan twitched. In their eyes, how awesome could a doctor in the lower 3 heavens be? To think that this little guy worships him to this extent and is so proud. Not only is my master's medical skills unparalleled, but his cultivation is also very high. He's already a first-grade martial king. His skills are outstanding. Chu Yang continued to be proud. First-grade martial king? Stand out from the crowd? The bald old man and Qin Baoshan were speechless. If your master is outstanding as a first-grade martial king, then what about us 2 fifth-grade martial monarchs? Celestial beings? I really have nothing to say to this bumpkin. I hang them. The bald old man finally could not help but cough twice. He cleared his throat and suppressed the urge to burst out laughing in his heart. He continued to ask, The technique you used to treat the injuries of the dozen people that night, was it also taught to you by your master? Chu Yang seemed to be conflicted for a while. After struggling for a while, he finally said reluctantly, No. Chapter 766. Part 7 Chapter 41. Pointing at a monk and scolding a bald donkey innocent, the old man's eyes lit up, and he said hurriedly, Who taught you this? Chu Yang struggled and said with difficulty, "This is my personal secrets. Can I not say?" The old man's eyes sharpened, and he suddenly roared, "If you don't say, I'll kill you." With a boom, an incomparably strong aura pressed down, as if heaven and earth had suddenly collapsed. The aura at this moment was really unparalleled. Moreover, it had a strong spiritual bewitchment. This was the most effective method of interrogating prisoners in the law hall, and it had never failed. Chu Yang sat on the ground with a boom, and his consciousness seemed to have collapsed and been destroyed. His eyes turned white, his mouth foamed, his hands and feet spasmed, and his whole body trembled. He shouted incoherently, I'll say everything. I'll say everything, then hurry up and say it." The bald old man let out another loud roar. His expression was ferocious, but he increased the power of his mental bewitchment. It was a bright and beautiful spring morning. I went out and came to a mountain. Chu Yang's eyes stared blankly, and he began to narrate unconsciously. The old man had been using his spiritual power to lock on Chu Yang's consciousness, heartbeat, and pulse. He smiled proudly. He was very sure that Chu Yang's consciousness was under his control. In such a state, even a deity would not be able to lie. But with Chu Yang's narration, the old man and Qin Baoshan slowly widened their eyes, and they revealed an incredulous look. Yes, yes. Because what Chu Yang had said and what they had heard were undoubtedly worlds apart. It was simply like the difference between heaven and earth. I found a cave, went in, and then fell down. It turned out that there was a stone chamber below. Chu Yang's eyes were misty, and he said in a muddle-headed manner, "That was the residence of an elder. When I went in, I saw 4 words, 'It's fate to come here. Pass on my legacy and save the world.'" The old man and Qin Baoshan's mouths were crooked, and they listened blankly. They're all healing methods of martial arts that have long been lost. There's the 5 ultimate Yin killing skill, the 7 poison meridian severing hand, the Yin Yang heavenly kick, the hell palm, the king of hell's soul-locking poison skill. The bald old man and Qin Baoshan had a headache listening to Chu Yang's long-winded explanation of a series of martial arts names. What the fuck is this? Stop! The bald old man stopped him in exasperation. How did you come to the upper 3 heavens? What have you done before? Tell me again. If he couldn't find any clues from his sect, then he would ask about his background. There were always clues to be found. This was the real method of taking drastic measures. Qin Baoshan nodded repeatedly. I'm in the lower 3 heavens. I've suffered. I've been bullied. Chu Yang wiped his snot and tears as he began to narrate his tragic life. Today he was beaten up by Hooligan Li, tomorrow he would be blackmailed by Hooligan Zhang, and the day after tomorrow he would be beaten up by Hooligan Sun. This young man's life was really bitter. He was almost beaten up since he was young. He rambled on for more than an hour, and the names he mentioned were definitely not few. There were at least 100 names, and they were all unimportant people in the lower 3 heavens. The most awesome one was actually a hooligan boss on the street. The bald old man and Qin Baoshan's faces turned green, but they couldn't interrupt him at this time. They could only force themselves to listen. I met my master, my master. Although Chu Yang's eyes were dull, he was still eloquent. So I finished my apprenticeship and traveled around. Finally, one day, his voice suddenly became heavy with grief and indignation. What happened? The bald old man couldn't help but feel his heart skip a beat. He felt that there was a great turning point. I cured the illness of Squire Lu's daughter. He said that he would betroth his daughter to me, but he changed his mind. Not only that, he even beat me, drove me away, scolded me. Later, he even knocked me out and threw me into the forest. I was beaten up every time I went back. Boo-hoo! The bald old man and Qin Baoshan looked at each other. They could hear that this matter was obviously more stimulating for Chu Yang. So when he spoke till here, his emotions became agitated and he even cried. His snot and tears flowed down his face. Then Chu Yang's emotions became even more agitated. He muttered curses and kept talking about the unfair treatment he had encountered. In the end, he gnashed his teeth, his face turned red, and his eyes shone fiercely. His voice was sonorous, and his mouth was full of old bastards, and old bastards. And it was two old bastards. And when he spoke, he looked at the bald old man and Qin Baoshan fiercely and scolded, "You two old bastards! You two old bastards!" The two of them were extremely depressed. Those who knew would know that he was scolding that Squire Lu and Squire Lu's wife. Those who didn't know would think that we were being scolded. Damn it. Chu Yang became even more agitated when he spoke of the most infuriating part. He suddenly jumped up and grabbed the bald old man's lapel. His expression was extremely agitated, and he spasmed and twisted. He scolded loudly, "Motherfucker, motherfucker! You old bastard with 1,000 green hats on your head. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? You old bastard, I'll fucking curse your grandchildren." Chu Yang roared, scolded, and spat his saliva. He was so angry that he looked like he was about to explode from anger. Chu Yang's saliva sprayed all over the bald old man's face. It was as if there was a rainstorm on the bald old man's head. He pulled Chu Yang's hand away from his chest and wiped his face in a flurry. His old face turned into a cigar, and he muttered curses, "Motherfucker! Motherfucker! This is really an unexpected disaster. I've been in charge of interrogation for 200 years, and this is the first time I've encountered such a thing. Motherfucker, I'm so unlucky." Although he was so angry that he almost wanted to destroy the world, he knew that Chu Yang was definitely not scolding him deliberately. How could it be possible that Chu Yang's mind was controlled by him? He could only suffer in silence. "Motherfucker, I've controlled a person's mind and made him scold me. If this were to be spread out, I'll definitely lose my reputation as a cheap bastard." The bald old man was extremely depressed. He turned his head to look at Qin Baoshan. Although Qin Baoshan's shoulder was still in great pain, he couldn't help but hold his stomach and laugh. "Motherfucker, this is really too satisfying." This little bastard had unconsciously taken this bastard as his biggest enemy and scolded him so happily. "This really makes me happy." The bald old man looked at Qin Baoshan fiercely. The meaning in his eyes was obvious. "Don't tell anyone." Qin Baoshan laughed in pain. He nodded painfully and wiped the tears from his eyes. Suddenly, he spat them out again with a puff sound, and then laughed loudly. The bald old man flew into a rage. On the other side, Chu Yang didn't care whether he laughed or not. He was still staring blankly and rambling on. Sometimes he scolded, sometimes he begged. Then he finally talked about how he entered the cave. Then after a while, he talked about how his parents found him. Then he went to the upper three heavens. Then he talked about how he didn't have any skills in the Chu clan, so he had to beg and open a clinic. Who knew that he would encounter so many people who were injured? Then Chu Yang excitedly put the blame on Chu Fian. Fourth uncle said that he could take this opportunity to earn a large sum of purple crystals to supplement his family. He was right. These people were all rich. Earning some purple crystals would be helpful for my cultivation in the future. Then, when he talked about the treatment, he exclaimed excitedly, "I'm rich. I've really struck it rich, huh? So many purple crystals, sparkling purple, piles upon piles. But I really don't know who that expert is. If he comes to fight every once in a while, then I'll be so happy, huh? Earning purple crystals is so easy, huh?" Chu Yang was dancing with joy. He was extremely excited. His saliva was splashing everywhere. It was obvious that his spirit was in a very excited state. Generally speaking, a person who had suddenly become a nouveau riche would have this kind of moral integrity. The entire morning had passed by the time Chu Yang had finished his nagging. The bald old man and Qin Baoshan looked at each other with black lines on their faces. They didn't expect such a result even in their dreams. The bald old man was especially depressed. "I spent so much spiritual energy to control this little one's mind, but in the end, I only heard stories for the whole morning. A story of a difficult childhood, a story of the law of the jungle, a story of being bullied, a story of, and then a story of the rise of a nouveau riche. All the times, places and names were clear at a glance. Not to mention a person whose mind was controlled, Even a normal person wouldn't be able to fabricate such a flawless story without any preparation. Although this story was very ordinary, it was definitely not fabricated. Because it wasn't fabricated, the bald old man was even more depressed. What the hell is this? I can't hit him or scold him. Am I just going to suffer in silence? Someone pointed at my nose and scolded my mother, cursed my ancestors and cursed my grandchildren. Am I just going to let it go like this? I'm really so wronged. What should I do? The bald old man looked at Chu Yang angrily. He couldn't wait to swallow Chu Yang up, but his words were directed at Qin Baoshan. What else can we do? Qin Baoshan said angrily, quickly wake him up and let him treat my injuries. Don't tell me you want to kill him? I've accompanied you for the whole morning. Don't you know how many times I've almost died? Am I just going to let go of this scolding? The bald old man roared and pointed at his bald head. Look, there's even saliva on it. If you don't let it go, what else do you want to do? Qin Baoshan said angrily, this little one has all kinds of insidious treatment methods, and he's not suspicious at all. For the upper three heavens, such a person is a treasure wherever he goes. Besides, he's not scolding you. Chapter 767. Part 7, Chapter 42, Blackmail. Part 7, Chapter 42, Blackmail. When Chu Yang woke up, he saw a bald man gnashing his teeth and glaring at him fiercely with his eyes as big as a donkey. He was shocked and stepped back in a flurry. Then he sat on the ground and wailed, I didn't do anything. This sentence was really a stroke of genius. The bald old man was so angry that his nose became crooked. You've already scolded all my ancestors, and you still say such a sentence. But he couldn't flare up. He grunted as if he had a toothache and said, yes, you didn't do anything. When he said this, he almost wanted to slap his own face a few times. It's the first time in my life that I've spoken against my conscience. To suffer such a loss in silence, to be forced to swallow blood and lose teeth, was something that had never happened before. He felt that a mouthful of blood had reached his throat. He couldn't swallow it down, nor could he spit it out. His face was red from holding back his anger. Actually, it was no wonder. The interrogation technique of law enforcement officers was the #1 technique in the heavens. It had never failed before. For ordinary people, even people with similar cultivation as this bald old man, as long as they fell into his hands, they would also find a way to deal with him. At most, it would take a little more effort, but he was extremely unlucky. The person he interrogated this time was actually the master of the tribulation sword. And since the master of the tribulation sword had appeared, then the sword spirit was naturally in the master of the tribulation sword. This meant that there were two souls in one body. How could he not suffer a great loss when he only controlled one? And this point was not recorded in the law enforcement headquarters. After all, the law enforcement organization was established to help the master of the tribulation sword. Who would think of interrogating the master of the tribulation sword? Who would be so daring? In this way, it was reasonable and logical for him to swallow this grievance in silence. Then, can I leave now? Chu Yang looked at him pitifully. His voice was trembling. Obviously, he was still extremely scared. But in the eyes of the bald old man, it was natural. In such a place, except for law enforcement officers, no ordinary person would want to stay here for even a blink of an eye. You're too kind. Divine Dr. Chu, I haven't entertained you properly yet. Against his conscience, the old bald man swallowed his saliva and scolded himself for being useless in his heart. He forced a fake smile. To tell you the truth, Divine Dr. Chu, I've invited you here because I have something to ask of you. You have something to ask of me? Chu Yang blinked his eyes in bewilderment and said, May I ask, what is it? This old man's friend, cough cough cough, was also injured that night. The bald old man finally brought up the main topic. His face was full of depression. Originally, he had planned to capture this little boy and bring him here to solve the case and treat his illness. Who would have thought that reality and imagination would be completely twisted, and he had no choice but to lower his voice and beg for help? This was truly an unprecedented encounter. Oh, so that's how it is. The cold sweat on Chu Yang's face lessened. He slowly calmed down. From fear and uneasiness, he slowly and gradually regained the bearing of a divine doctor. He even glared at the bald old man with resentment, fully expressing his dissatisfaction. This little boy really knows how to take advantage of the situation. The bald old man only felt that he was about to spit out blood. It's not that I want to say this. Chu Yang obviously still had some scruples. But when he heard that the other party actually had something to ask of him, he gradually became a little arrogant. Old man, what you're doing is wrong. How can you invite a doctor like this? You actually forced your way here to capture people, and even asked for bribes from my clan. As Chu Yang spoke, he finally relaxed. His anger gradually rose and gradually became furious. He seemed to have adapted to his current role. He finally realized, oh, so you're asking me for a favor. Such a mentality. So, he climbed up from the ground and simply threw a tantrum. Aren't these bastards? You law enforcement officers can't be unreasonable. You actually asked for bribes when you asked for help? How can there be such logic in this world? The bald old man's and Qin Baoshan's faces instantly turned red. This matter was really not done properly. Those two bastards. They actually dared to ask for bribes. Qin Baoshan flew into a rage. How dare they? Chu Yang was furious. Not only did they ask for bribes, but they even threatened me. They're extremely arrogant. They escorted me here like a prisoner and kept a straight face all the way here like a corpse. The more he spoke, the angrier he became. Suddenly, he flicked his sleeves and walked away. I'm not going to treat any more. I can't treat any illness, and I don't know how to treat any injuries. Let's go home. Slow down, slow down. The bald old man really wanted to cry. If he really let Chu Yang leave, Qin Baoshan and the rest would definitely skin him alive. Divine Dr. Chu, this can be discussed. What's there to discuss? Chu Yang scolded. Look at what you've done. In this world, there was actually such a thing as confusing right and wrong, calling a deer a horse, being completely unreasonable, and inverting right and wrong. I'm a good citizen. I've been cautious and careful all my life. I've always taken pleasure in helping others. I've always been merciful and benevolent. I've always been kind and benevolent. I've always been afraid of harming the lives of ants when I sweep the floor. I've always been protective of moths when I cover gauze lanterns. I've contributed a little strength to the suffering of the world, but I've actually met with such misfortune. Heavens, please open your eyes. What kind of world is this? Chu Yang wanted to cry but had no tears to shed. In the tribulation space, the sword spirit spurted out a mouthful of blood. Qin Baoshan's face turned pale, and the veins on the bald old man's forehead were throbbing. He didn't dare to get angry at Chu Yang, so he could only roar and stomp his feet. Bring those two bastards here. Not long after, the two Iron Plate law enforcement officers came here with puzzled faces. As soon as they came in, the bald old man rushed over and gave each of them a dozen slaps to the face. He slapped them until their heads swung back and forth. Before the two of them could even react, their heads had already swollen into pig heads. Bastards! The bald old man scolded and winked at them. Didn't I tell you to be polite when you invite Divine Dr. Chu? Serve him carefully? You two bastards, how dare you treat Divine Dr. Chu like this? If I don't skin you alive today, how can I face Divine Dr. Chu? The two Iron Plate law enforcement officers in front of him were already stunned by the slaps. Now they fainted after being scolded. They only reacted when they saw the bald old man blinking his eyes. The two of them hurriedly knelt down. Yes, Commander, you're right. It's our fault. The bald old man breathed a sigh of relief and continued scolding. You two even asked for bribes. Where are they? Hurry up and take them out. What are you waiting for? Damn thing. We were muddle-headed. Commander, please forgive us. The two Iron Plate law enforcement officers were extremely embarrassed. They thought, didn't we do things like this before? Besides, we've already secretly placed half of the purple crystals in your room. Do we still have to steal them? It's absolutely impossible to steal them. We can only pay for it ourselves. The two of them felt extremely wronged. They had no choice but to say, yes, we'll go back and get the purple crystals immediately. There's a total of 10 purple crystals, not one less. What, 10 crystals? It's obviously 300 crystals. Chu Yang immediately flew into a rage. He pointed to the sky and scolded the earth. He was so indignant that he stomped his feet. How can there be such a shameless thing in the world? After receiving 300 purple crystals, you actually have the cheek to say that it's only 10 crystals. But what kind of world is this? Law enforcement officers are actually so evil. I want to cry but have no tears. I'm so indignant. I'm going to vomit blood. 300 crystals? We're the ones who are going to vomit blood. The two iron plate law enforcement officers wanted to cry but had no tears. It's obviously 10 crystals. How did it become 300 crystals in the blink of an eye? Where are we going to get the other 240 crystals? Chu Yang was still unforgiving. Oh my God, I really can't believe the greed of the human heart. 300 crystals. Your 2 big bags are already full. Now, it's actually become 10 crystals in the blink of an eye. He rushed in front of Qin Baoshan in indignation. Elder, did you hear that? 300 purple crystals actually became 10 crystals. In the tribulation space, the sword spirit said doubtfully, it's obviously 10 crystals. In his mind, Chu Yang roared at the sword spirit, get lost. Then he faced Qin Baoshan and said tearfully, how can there be such injustice in the world? It's not that I don't want to treat your illness, it's just that my mind is already in a mess. Elder, please find someone else. I'm powerless. Qin Baoshan flew into a rage. Ignoring the pain in his shoulder, he flashed forward and kicked the two fellows up like rubber balls. He roared furiously, what are you waiting for? Go and get the purple crystals. Bastards. 300 purple crystals. If there's even one less, I'll wipe out your entire clan. If you delay this old man's treatment, both of you and your clans will die. The two people were kicked quite seriously, but not to the extent of fainting. But when they heard this sentence, they rolled their eyes and fainted completely. This time, it's over. How can there be such shameless people in the world? We've obviously received 10 crystals, boo-hoo, and even gave the commander 30 crystals. Where are we going to get 300 crystals? Why aren't you going? The bald old man roared fiercely. The two people then climbed up in a daze. Just as they were about to walk out, they heard Divine Dr. Chu say dejectedly, Elder, I'm really not in the mood to take back the clan's property. Hey, can you please let me rest for a while? The two iron plate law enforcement officers were stunned as if they were struck by lightning. They wailed in their hearts, you're forcing us to our deaths. I've never seen such a black-hearted person. Qin Baoshan was also speechless. You're not in the mood, but I'm in pain all the time. He was so angry that he jumped over and kicked them twice. Listen, the two of you, if you don't come back in 15 minutes, the two of you can just kill your entire clan and commit suicide. The two people ran away as if they had lost their parents. Divine Dr. Chu murmured, where's the justice in this world? Where's the justice? Where's the conscience? Where's the justice? Is this still the world ruled by law enforcement officers? Oh my God, I'm going to collapse. The bald old man covered his face with his sleeves. I'm really going to collapse. Damn it, I actually caught such an excellent person. These few days I've been extremely depressed. I always feel that I've missed out some plot. I'm always trembling with fear when I'm writing, for fear that I'll overdo it. But I just can't think of it. What did I miss out? Everyone help me think? Damn it, I'm so flustered. Chapter 768. The old bald man wanted to cry but had no tears. With his experience, how could he not see that the two iron medallion wielders had actually collected 10 purple crystals? Besides, you've just returned to the Chu clan and have lost all your martial arts. Will the Chu clan take out 300 purple crystals for you? Is this a joke? But the other party is blackmailing us, and we're not only in the right, but also in need of help. Don't return it? What to do? Not only did he see it, Qin Baoshan was also not stupid. He could see it as well, but seeing it was one thing, and giving it to him or not was another thing. Now they were forced to the edge of the cliff. They had no choice but to give it to him. The two looked at each other and shook their heads gloomily. The old bald man's lips moved slightly and he transmitted his voice to Qin Baoshan. Old Qin, we've fallen into a trap this time. We've been completely blackmailed by this immature brat. The only thing I don't understand is that this bastard was still in fear and trepidation just now. How did he change his role so quickly? Once he heard that we have a favor to ask of him, he immediately turned hostile? He's simply a hooligan. Qin Baoshan sighed and transmitted his voice. You still can't figure it out? Listen to his childhood. He grew up in a hooligan's nest. Those hooligans' ability to pull strings is not limited to this. It'd be strange if he didn't do this. The old bald man nodded repeatedly. You're right. Brother Qin is really observant. Then he asked, now, we can only take the purple crystals to stabilize this brat, let him treat your injuries, and then, Qin Baoshan sighed slightly. Let's take one step at a time. If he were to treat his injuries and accept the other party's kindness, then fall out with them, wouldn't that be ungrateful? Let's not talk about other things. How can we overcome our own inner demons? The old bald man's eyes flashed fiercely and he said, We'll talk about this later. Qin Baoshan had guessed what he was going to do, but he sighed and said, do as you see fit. At this moment, Chu Yang finally recovered from his emotions and said, Elder, why don't I take a look at your injuries first? This way, we'll know what your injuries are. Qin Baoshan was overjoyed and said, then I'll really trouble you, divine Dr. Chu. Chu Yang sighed and said sanctimoniously, a doctor has the heart of a parent. After all, I can't bear to see you in pain like this. The old bald man turned his head and covered his mouth to cough. Motherfucker. Your heart of a doctor's heart of a parent was exchanged for 300 purple crystals. Even the high priests of a high priest of a medicine. Senior, please relax your entire body and disperse your protective Xian technique. Otherwise, this junior Xian technique will be crippled and I won't be able to diagnose you, Chu Yang said indifferently. Qin Baoshan's injuries. There was really nothing to be afraid of in his own territory. Seeing that Qin Baoshan had unbuttoned his clothes, Chu Yang stretched out his hand and pressed down on the wound with 2 fingers. Qin Baoshan groaned. He only felt that the 2 fingers were directly buried in his flesh as if they had entered one of his internal organs. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed that the fingers didn't even break his skin. It was as if his tendons and bones were pinched and pulled by Qin Baoshan's 2 fingers. Although Qin Baoshan's cultivation was excellent and his endurance was much higher than ordinary people, he still groaned. His face turned snow-white, and soybean-sized beads of sweat dripped down from his forehead. Chu Yang finally retracted his fingers and frowned. Seeing Chu Yang's serious face, the bald man and Qin Baoshan felt uneasy and asked, Divine Dr. Chu, is there a problem? It's quite troublesome. Chu Yang frowned and looked at Qin Baoshan who seemed to be angry but didn't dare to flare up. Finally, Chu Yang sighed and said, How can you mess around? Mess around? Qin Baoshan asked puzzledly. Elder's injuries were originally caused by a very insidious martial art. According to this injury, it's definitely the meridian smashing finger. Even his shoulders and arms were completely sealed. And the pain is unbearable. If it's not unsealed after a day, the surrounding meridians will start to crack. If it's not unsealed after 2 days, it will start to crack. After 3 days, it will start to disintegrate. This is the horror of the meridian smashing finger. Then the whole shoulder will be crippled. Chu Yang said with great familiarity. Yes, that's right. Qin Baoshan's eyes brightened and he became excited. This guy can really cure it. If you came to find me immediately and I unsealed it for you, it wouldn't be a big problem. But your injuries have been delayed for at least 3 days. Chu Yang said. Yes, it's been almost 5 days, Qin Baoshan said shamefully. It's fine if it's only delayed. After I unsealed your broken meridians, I'll use a secret method to make medicine and take it for half a month. Then you'll be able to recover, but you actually, Chu Yang shook his head and sighed. The more Qin Baoshan listened, the more uneasy he felt. He couldn't help but ask nervously, how? But you actually found a doctor to take a look at you, and unsealed it for you. But it's completely unreasonable. Chu Yang glared at him angrily. He actually unsealed it for you according to the treatment method of the meridian smashing palm. This is simply the behavior of a quack and a bastard. Qin Baoshan's face suddenly turned pale. He found an internal doctor and treated him once. According to the doctor, there was no doubt that this was the meridian smashing palm, and treated him for a while. At that time, he really felt relieved and even gave a big gift to the doctor. Then he came back excitedly, only to find that it was even more painful after a day and a half. When he found the doctor again, he was at a loss again. Divine Dr. Chu, what's the consequence of this? The bald old man was also frightened. He was the one who introduced that doctor to Qin Baoshan. What's the consequence? Chu Yang said angrily, there's no consequence. It's just that I can't remove the root of the problem even after half a year. And now, it seems that it's not just that. This is the consequence. Do you understand? Even though the two of them were extraordinarily calm, they couldn't help but exclaim. Move your shoulder. Don't be afraid of pain. Yes, lift it up. Press your right chest with your hand and press it down with all your strength. With all your strength. Chu Yang waved his fingers indifferently. A finger was placed on his wrist without exerting any strength. Qin Baoshan lifted his left shoulder and pressed his right hand on his right chest. At the same time, the sword spirit's spiritual power had unknowingly entered Qin Baoshan's body through Chu Yang's hand. Then, the spiritual power was dormant in Qin Baoshan's right chest, ready to explode. Qin Baoshan exerted his strength and suddenly screamed. He felt as if a piece of his flesh had been ruthlessly cut out by a knife. Instantly, he felt a heart-wrenching pain. He sweated profusely and almost fainted. But he was also in so much pain that he couldn't breathe or speak. He could only squat on the ground and gasp for cold air. What's wrong? The bald old man was shocked. Nothing. It's just that he was badly treated by that quack. Not only did he not heal his left shoulder, but his meridians were also twisted. The treatment method of the meridian breaking palm is actually to reverse the meridians in the opposite direction and then twist them back. To put it plainly, it's to perform the meridian-breaking palm in the opposite direction. His meridians weren't twisted originally, but after the treatment of the meridian-breaking palm, it was equivalent to bearing the meridian-breaking palm without any resistance. Instead, his meridians were twisted and broken. Chu Yang said lightly, the most powerful thing about the quack you found is that he performed the meridian-breaking palm on top of the meridian-breaking finger injury. Immediately, the meridians of your entire upper body and shoulders were affected. Moreover, with the power of the meridian-breaking finger, it became a strange injury that was neither the meridian-breaking palm nor the meridian-breaking finger. He looked at Qin Baoshan with pity. Fortunately, you found me now. Otherwise, your right shoulder would be finished after one more day. And it's closely followed by your heart meridians. Alas, I forgot that even if you found me, you still have injuries without medicine? Qin Baoshan opened his mouth wide and made some noises. I say, does the doctor you found have a grudge against you? Isn't it obvious that he's trying to kill you? Besides, if he can't treat an injury that he's not confident in, then he shouldn't treat it. Now, you're in big trouble. Damn it. Chu Yang shook his head and sighed. Qin Baoshan was dumbfounded. The bald old man was also dumbfounded. In an instant, both of them had the same expression. They wanted to cry but had no tears. Then, Qin Baoshan grabbed the bald old man's lapel furiously and roared fiercely, Sha Xinliang. Damn it, you found such a good doctor for me. You've harmed me. What kind of grudge do I have with you? I hate you for harming me like this. Qin Baoshan was extremely indignant. The bald old man, Sha Xinliang, was so anxious that his tears almost fell down. He hurriedly explained, Brother Qin, Ghost Qin. This has nothing to do with me. Then whose business is it? Qin Baoshan roared like a thunderbolt. My injury wasn't serious at first, but the quack you introduced caused me to become like this. I'm about to lose my life, and you still say that it has nothing to do with you? This sentence reminded Sha Xinliang. He hurriedly turned his head to look at Chu Yang and said in a pleading tone, "Little brother, you see, Brother Qin, can he still be saved?" Chu Yang snorted and said, "Why are the two of you still arguing? Elder, you've been driven to a dead end by the quack, but this Elder Sha. There's a black aura between his eyebrows. It's obvious that he's been seriously injured, and he's poisoned by yin and yang. Then he's been treated unlawfully, and the poison has entered his internal amine. He only has 3 to 5 years of life left. If the two of you, you'll probably die at the same time." This sentence was like a bolt from the blue. Sha Xinliang's body shook and his face turned pale. He said blankly, "What did you say? How do you know that I've been seriously injured? I've been poisoned by yin and yang?" All kinds of terrible consequences surged into his mind at the same time. The more Sha Xinliang thought about it, the more scared he became. The facts proved that the divine doctor he introduced to Qin Baoshan was a quack. Or rather, he was a second-rate doctor. And my injury was treated by him. What if he treated me like how he treated Qin Baoshan? The more he thought about it, the more scared he became. He couldn't even stand up. With Qin Baoshan as an example, how could Sha Xinliang still believe in the divine doctor, who was in charge of the Hall of Justice? And Chu Yang's medical skills were so brilliant, how could he be wrong? Chu Yang smiled mysteriously and sighed deeply. "The two of you have met a quack." Chapter 769. Chapter 44. Little brother, you're really open and aboveboard. This situation was naturally the result of Chu Yang's instruction to the sword spirit. And the result was very different from the one given by the sword spirit. In fact, after the sword spirit checked Sha Xinliang's situation, he said to Chu Yang like this: "Although Sha Xinliang's meridians are deep, they're weak at the foundation. He must have suffered a serious injury that damaged his foundation. Moreover, his heart meridian is a little hyperactive, but his face is dark. Obviously, he's been poisoned by both yin and yang. But he didn't get rid of it completely, and it's left in his body. Although it's harmless and doesn't affect his lifespan, it's still a problem in the future." This simple sentence, after being changed by Chu Yang, suddenly became different. Sha Xinliang was almost scared out of his wits. "I only have 4 to 5 years of lifespan left? I don't want to die." Seeing the two people like this, Chu Yang smiled sinisterly. He wasn't so kind-hearted to heal these two people. But he had no foundation and no backing at the moment. In this flat mountain ridge, he really didn't have much confidence. Now that he had a heaven-sent opportunity to tie these two people to his belt, it would be too convenient for him to do things in the future. These two people weren't ordinary people. One was the person in charge of the law enforcement auction hall here. The other was the first commander of the law enforcement hall here. There were a total of 3 halls for law enforcement officers here, and the other one was the blood payers hall. If Chu Yang had these two people under his control, it would be equivalent to having a high position in the flat mountain ridge. So, from the beginning, Minister Chu had never thought of letting these two old things go. Damn it, even a street gangster needs to find a yamen officer to protect him. No matter what, he's still the young master of the Chu clan. If he wants to find someone, he should find someone who's important enough. Looking at Sha Xinliang, Chu Yang sneered and said, "How do I know? Let me ask you, before you got injured, even if your face was dark, it shouldn't be so dark, right? Look for a mirror and see if the dark color between your eyebrows is far beyond the color of your cheeks." This was pure nonsense. After an ordinary person grew old, would his skin still be as fair and tender as when he was a teenager? Moreover, Sha Xinliang was a law enforcement officer who stayed in such a ruthless place like the law enforcement hall every day. If his skin became more and more like that of a gigolo's, that would be a strange thing. As for the area between his eyebrows that was even darker. Motherfucker, which person in the world wasn't darker here than anywhere else? Of course, if we were in the 21st century, we would all know about this. But in the Chongtian continent, where could he find such a profound theory? Sha Xinliang's legs went soft at once, and he sat down on the ground. His head was full of cold sweat, and his bald head was shining in an instant. The two of them broke out in cold sweat and were dumbstruck. Seeing the two of them like this, Chu Yang made a stunned expression. The two of you, don't tell me you found the same? Divine doctor? The two of them nodded with teary faces. Now, they even had the thought of chopping that godly doctor into pieces. I'm speechless. Chu Yang heaved a long sigh. You two are really brothers in distress. You even found the same quack to kill yourself? I was also speechless. In the tribulation space, the sword spirit was full of admiration for this Lord Sword Master's ability to deal with people. He's too awesome. He had obviously dissolved some of the force of the meridian smashing finger and alleviated some of the symptoms. Although it couldn't be cured completely, it was still going in a good direction. But in Chu Yang's words, it became a murder for money and he was about to die, and this Sha Xinliang, he was fatally injured, and his foundation was hurt. It was already very good that Chu Yang could save him. What's more, how could this kind of injury that damaged the foundation be healed? Especially at his age, it's even more impossible, and that poison, as long as he didn't take heavy pills, there would definitely be some residue of the yin and yang poison. Besides, it's not life-threatening. Can't it be reduced to a level that the human body can bear? But in Chu Yang's words, it became another case of murder. Alas, it seems that I'm also an accomplice. Actually, Sha Xinliang and Qin Baoshan couldn't be blamed for being stupid. On the contrary, the two of them were not stupid, but very smart people. How could they be stupid when they were able to cultivate to the monarch level? But how could they treat this matter with a normal heart when it concerned their own safety? Moreover, Chu Yang's title of Divine Doctor had already been deeply ingrained in their hearts, and everything he said was clear and logical. How could they dare to doubt him? We were even more speechless. Sha Xinliang and Qin Baoshan looked at each other and wanted to cry. Both of them were ruined by the same quack. It wasn't enough for them to be fooled once, and they even dragged their sworn brothers to be fooled for the second time. Sha Xinliang sighed and pulled Qin Baoshan's hand. Brother Qin, I didn't expect that both of us would fail in the same ditch. Qin Baoshan was a little speechless. If it weren't for you, would I have failed in this small ditch? Damn it, I wanted to look for this guy so badly that night. Wasn't it because of you that I was dragged to look for a doctor? But what's the use of saying this at this moment and place? Qin Baoshan could only sigh deeply. If I can see that bastard again in this life, I'll definitely eat him alive. Sha Xinliang's facial muscles twitched and his face was hideous. The next moment, both of them were startled and turned to look at Chu Yang at the same time, as if they had seen a living bodhisattva. At the same time, they asked, Divine Dr. Chu, can my injuries still be cured? Chu Yang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Did I say that it can't be cured? Both of them immediately screamed and felt as if flowers were blooming at the same time. They almost hugged Chu Yang and spun a few rounds, and their eyes were filled with tears. Damn it, it turns out that there's still hope for old people. It's just that. Chu Yang was extremely distressed. His "it's just that" immediately made the two people on tenterhooks. Chu Yang continued, both of you have been treated badly by mediocre doctors. It's as difficult as ascending to the heavens if you want to reverse it. It's not something that can be done overnight, and it involves a few elixirs. I can only be responsible for controlling your injuries first. As for your complete recovery, it depends on whether the elixirs can be found. If they can be found, I'll be responsible for the treatment. Elder Qin will be fine within a year, and Elder Sha will be able to recover completely within 2 years. Even your damaged primordial qi can be replenished. Both of them were overjoyed at the same time. Really? Chu Yang waved his hand miserably. Don't be happy too early. I haven't finished yet. But if the elixirs can't be found, there's nothing I can do. The two of them immediately felt their hearts in their mouths. They looked at Chu Yang anxiously. What elixirs? They prayed secretly in their hearts that it shouldn't be those rare treasures. That would really cost them their lives. Purple crystals. Purple crystals are here. At this moment, the two iron plate law enforcement officers ran in, sweating profusely. Each of them carried a big parcel in their hands. Oh my God, we borrowed from almost everyone and kowtowed like pounding garlic. Only then did we manage to gather 300 purple crystals, and hurriedly sent them over. These two unlucky bastards interrupted at the most crucial moment of the conversation. Sha Xinliang and Qin Baoshan turned back at the same time and glared at the two law enforcement officers angrily. It was as if he wanted to swallow the two of them alive. He gritted his teeth and said word by word, "Bastards." The two iron plate law enforcement officers were stunned at once. They didn't know what was going on. "What's wrong? Put down the purple crystals and get out." Sha Xinliang shouted angrily, "Quickly disappear in front of me in the blink of an eye." With a whoosh, the two of them disappeared instantly. Who has the patience to be in front of you? Damn it, do you even need to blink for such a long time? Sha Xinliang strode forward and carried the two big parcels over. With a smile, he bent down slightly and said to Chu Yang in a humble tone, "Divine Dr. Chu, cough cough cough. Your purple crystals." There was actually a hint of flattery in his voice. Chu Yang smiled and said, "Elder Sha, I've gone overboard in this matter." "Ha, we're all sensible people. The two of them came to my house and only asked for 10 purple crystals. But since the situation has changed, of course I have to teach them a lesson and ask for 300 purple crystals from them. Ha, please don't take it to heart." "That's right. This kind of scum should be taught a lesson like this." Qin Baoshan nodded repeatedly and agreed. "It's only satisfying to teach this kind of scum a lesson." Sha Xinliang clenched his left fist and smashed it into the palm of his right hand. "It's really satisfying." The two of them looked at Chu Yang and praised at the same time, "Little brother, you're really an open and above-board person." In the tribulation space, the sword spirit opened his eyes wide and was already speechless. How did this matter develop? How did Chu Yang confess voluntarily in the blink of an eye, and even act as if he's confiding in them? And in the eyes of these two old men, Chu Yang actually became an open and above-board person. How is he open and above-board? Why don't I see it? Of course, it's better to share it with others than to share it alone. Come, two brothers, let's give each of us 100 purple crystals." Chu Yang greeted them enthusiastically. The distance between them shortened rapidly, and they had already become brothers. The two of them shook their heads together and said unhappily, "Little brother, you're simply insulting us. How can we take your things?" If Chu Yang had said the same sentence before, not to mention 100 purple crystals per person, he might not even be able to get a single piece, and might even lose his life here. But now that he said it, not only did he win the favor of the two of them, but the two of them also wouldn't dare to accept these 100 purple crystals. What if they fall out with them after accepting them? What should I do? His life was still in the other party's hands. Then the medicine. Sha Xinliang rubbed his hands. Yes, I almost forgot. Do you have any medicine?" Chu Yang patted his forehead, put the 2 bags of purple crystals under his buttocks and sat on them. Sha Xinliang went to get the medicine personally, and Chu Yang started to write rapidly. "Old brother Qin, this is your prescription. You must find these herbs within 2 months. Of course. Chu Yang earnestly exhorted as he wrote at a high speed. "I know." Qin Baoshan looked at the names of the medicines with great concentration. 500-year-old golden Ganoderma, snow ginseng, 500-year-old snow lotus, golden blood ginseng. Jade petal Ganoderma. Qin Baoshan was relieved. Only the jade petal Ganoderma was difficult to get, and the others were very ordinary. But this jade petal Ganoderma shouldn't be difficult for me. Last night, I stayed up all night and didn't write a single word. From the book reviews, mobile book reviews, and Tieba book reviews, I browsed a few pirated websites with book reviews and made a bunch of records. Finally, I understood what I had forgotten. Well, fortunately, it's not too late to mend the pen after a sheep is lost. I should also rejoice. Chapter 770. Chu Yang smiled and said, "Elder brother Qin, look carefully. There are a total of 37 medicinal herbs here, and most of them are in urgent need. And this jade clover Ganoderma should be more difficult to get. He frowned and picked up the brush to write. As he wrote, he said, although this jade clover Ganoderma is precious, it doesn't have much benefit for your injury. But I was thinking that your cultivation has reached a bottleneck. If you can find it together with other medicinal herbs, you can break through your meridians and break through the bottleneck. But it's quite troublesome, so I'd better write it off. Break through the bottleneck. Qin Baoshan's eyes immediately widened. Ignoring the piercing pain in his left hand, he stretched out both his hands and hugged the prescription like a hen protecting her eggs. He shook his head like a rattledrum. No, 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 it's not troublesome at all. I've been stuck in this bottleneck for 30 years. I thought it was hopeless, but now I finally have a chance. If I let it go, won't I regret it for the rest of my life? I mustn't miss it. Since elder brother Qin insists, I'll accept it respectfully. But if I can't find it within 2 months, I'll have to give up my advancement and save my life first, Chu Yang said seriously. Elder brother Qin, this isn't a trifling matter. I hope you won't be disappointed because you can't find the jade clover Ganoderma. Yes, I know. Qin Baoshan refused to let go of the prescription and promised repeatedly. He secretly made up his mind. Even if I have to risk my life, I'll find the jade clover Ganoderma within 2 months at all costs. Chu Yang nodded helplessly and smiled. He turned his head and met Sha Xinliang's fiery eyes. Elder brother Sha, I just took a look at you and I'll take your pulse again. Chu Yang stretched out his hands. Now the relationship between the three of them had improved by leaps and bounds. They were already very intimate with each other. If Chu Yang said, "Why don't we become sworn brothers?" these two old men who were discussing about killing Chu Yang just now would definitely agree. Sha Xinliang stretched out his hand cooperatively and said gratefully, "It's all thanks to you, little brother." Chu Yang felt Sha Xinliang's pulse, and the sword spirit took the opportunity to enter Sha Xinliang's body. Now, Sha Xinliang's condition had unknowingly become like what Chu Yang said. Really? It's more serious than I thought. Divine Dr. Chu frowned, shook his head and sighed. I didn't expect quacks to harm people so uniformly. Sha Xinliang gritted his teeth so hard that his teeth could be heard. This is infuriating. This old man was so grateful to him and treated him as a close friend for so many years. But this guy actually treated this old man like a fool for so many years. This hatred was absolutely irreconcilable. Not only was it for revenge, but it was also for his life. Just thinking about it made him so ashamed that he couldn't show his face. What a joke! It was as if this old man had recognized a thief as his father, and had provided for that bastard for so many years. Old brother Sha, feel the lower left corner of your dandan and press it hard. Also, press it hard 1 inch above the heart meridian. Also, press it hard 1 finger in front of the Baihui acupoint on the top of your head. Press it hard. Chu Yang instructed as he loosened his hand. Sha Xinliang followed her instructions and pressed his dantian. He only felt as if he was suddenly stabbed by a knife. Instantly, he felt an overwhelming pain, and cold sweat dripped down his face. Half of it was because of the pain, and the other half was because of the shock. When he reached 1 inch above the heart meridian, he felt as if thousands of steel needles had pierced into his body. He couldn't help but scream in pain. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Groping Tu went to the front of the Baihui acupoint and pressed down hard. Ow exen, Sha Xinliang screamed miserably. He rolled his eyes and fainted. Then, he fell backward and the back of his head hit the ground with a bang sound without any sound. Qin Baoshan was shocked. This? What's wrong with Lao Sha? His internal injuries have been turned into abscesses by mediocre doctors. Chu Yang said sympathetically, "It's all right. You can wake him up if you pinch his lower body. This is only a temporary coma caused by pain. It's not a big deal." Qin Baoshan followed Chu Yang's instructions. He pinched Sha Baoyang's lower body hard. Sha Baoyang roared and woke up. But after he woke up, he sat on the ground in a daze. His eyes were dull, and his spirit seemed to have been drawn away by someone in an instant. He also seemed to have aged a lot. Even the light on his bald head seemed to have dimmed a lot. After a long time, he suddenly said in a daze, as if he was in a dream, "It's real, Laosha. You have to face reality. We still have little brother Chu." Qin Baoshan persuaded him worriedly. The next moment, Sha Xinliang jumped up like a giant bear that was trapped in a cage. He scolded angrily, "Tong Wuxin, you're really heartless. I'll fuck your mother, I'll fuck your mother. I'll fuck you, I'll fuck you, I'll fuck you." Countless three-character scriptures gushed out of his mouth like a surging river, cursing that divine Dr. Tong Wuxin to the point that if his ancestor was still alive, he would be jumping in his coffin at this moment. Chu Yang coughed. It was as if Sha Xinliang and Qin Baoshan had heard an imperial edict. They stopped cursing and came over, calling Chu Yang affectionately, "Brother Chu, little brother, brother Sha, there's no time to lose. I'll give you a prescription first." Chu Yang truly looked like a divine doctor. He bemoaned the state of the universe and pitied the fate of mankind as he said, "This injury of yours. It can be said that it's really troublesome. Alas." Sha Xinliang was trembling with fear as he stood behind Chu Yang's shoulder and watched him write. His bald head was full of sweat. Chu Yang's brush moved like dragons and snakes. He finished the prescription in one stroke and blew on it, saying, "Brother Sha, this injury of yours, it's an old injury and you've been framed, so it's more troublesome. Please note that the 20 medicinal herbs on the prescription are more precious and rarer than Brother Qin's. So, you have to hurry up, because you only have half a year's time. In another half a year's time, the poison will enter your bone marrow and hurt your lifeline. By then, there'll be no way to save you." The medicinal herbs that Chu Yang had prescribed for the two of them were the ones that Chu Yang needed to restore his cultivation and solidify his spirit. And the jade clover Ganoderma and heavenly jade elixir were the ones that Chu needed. Everyone was not stupid. Chu Yang naturally did not dare to mix poison into the prescription. So, he could only add these two tonics. Sha Xinliang took the prescription with trembling hands. He was full of gratitude and almost couldn't speak. "Thank you, thank you, thank you so much." Only then did he have time to look at the medicinal herbs on the prescription. When he saw the first one, he couldn't help but feel relieved. Although it's hard to find, it's not too difficult. When he saw the second one, it was still the same. The third one could still be found. After looking at the names of more than 20 medicinal herbs, he felt relieved. Although it's precious and rare, it's not a problem for me at all. When he saw the last one, Sha Xinliang finally shivered and blurted out, "Heavenly jade elixir?" "Yes, it's heavenly jade elixir." Chu Yang said seriously, "This is the root of treating your injury. Your foundation is damaged. Apart from the great medicinal herbs, only heavenly jade elixir can help you recover. If we can't find this, even if we find all the previous 25 medicinal herbs, it'll be in vain." Sha Xinliang's lips trembled and he said firmly, "Little brother, don't worry. I'll definitely find the heavenly jade elixir within half a year." Chu Yang held his hand tightly and said, "Brother, I won't say anything else. You have to take care of your own illness. During this period of time, think more about happy things. Try to make yourself happy first, and then maintain this state of mind. Don't let anything happen to you. This is beneficial for your illness." Sha Xinliang almost cried and nodded. "Second brother is going to die soon. How can I be happy?" "I'll treat the two of you first to relieve your pain." Chu Yang sighed deeply and said, "That medicine? You have to hurry up. You must hurry up." He wiped his eyes and said, "Why are the three of you so congenial? Although I've returned to my clan after coming to the upper three heavens, but there aren't many people in my generation who are so close to me. Brothers, I don't want to lose the two of you." The two were greatly moved. They held Chu Yang's hand tightly and said solemnly, "Little brother, good brother, don't worry, with us here, even thunder won't be able to touch you in the upper three heavens." "That's hard to say." Chu Yang sighed and said, "For example, today, alas." The two elders laughed and said, "Little brother, don't worry. This kind of thing will never happen again." Sha Xinliang squinted his eyes and said, "Not only that, if little brother wants to punish anyone in this flat mountain ridge, I'll definitely do my best till the day I die. Really? Chu Yang asked emotionally with tears in his eyes. I swear to the heavens, if I violate this oath, I'll be struck by lightning and pierced by thousands of arrows. After I die, my body and soul will be destroyed, and I won't be able to reincarnate. Sha Xinliang raised his hand and swore solemnly. Chu Yang seemed to be so moved that he was stunned. His tears flowed down, and he even forgot to stop him from swearing. He finally reacted, and his whole body shivered. Then he grabbed Sha Xinliang's hand and said, Brother Sha, you mustn't do this, Little brother, I'm not worthy of such a heavy oath. Little brother, really go. This is nothing. Sha Xinliang said straightforwardly, you and I treat each other with utmost sincerity. It's natural for me to take care of my little brother. Even if the second law enforcer and the Dharma Supreme were here, they wouldn't be able to say anything. Chu Yang was extremely moved. He pulled Sha Xinliang's hand and shook it continuously and said, Brother Sha, please sit down. I'll relieve your pain right away. After Chu Yang's treatment, Sha Xinliang's body really didn't hurt anymore. Qin Baoshan's injury was also under further control. Although there was still some pain in his mouth, it was already much better than before. Both of them were instantly more convinced of Chu Yang's methods. They pulled Chu Yang's hand even more affectionately. What's the matter? After thinking for a while, I think it's better to explain it. I feel uneasy if I keep it in my heart. Everyone can tell that I haven't exploded in the past few days. In fact, I'll confess to everyone that I've received a notice the day before yesterday that this month's issue will be proudly promoted. As we all know, it's customary for a promotion to be promoted. So, I've been in a hurry these few days. I write 3 chapters a day. Except for yesterday, when I was sorting out the outline, I didn't write any more. I write 2 chapters and save 1 chapter, waiting for the promotion to be promoted. Well, I've saved 2 chapters so far. I'll try to write 1 more chapter today. I believe that everyone will be very satisfied when the issue is released. If I don't say it, I'll directly explode in the future. Perhaps I'll get more votes. But I feel uneasy, as if I've been cheated. Everyone has followed me for so long. If I play such petty tricks, it seems that I'm letting everyone down. I might as well make it clear in advance. I hope that everyone can understand me, and I hope to get everyone's support when the time comes. Those who haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Those who can't subscribe, please click on the issue and give a few recommendation votes and comments. Thank you in advance. Chapter 771. Finally, Chu Yang finished treating the 2 of them. He was exhausted and sweating profusely. He sat down on the ground and panted. His face was pale. Seeing that he was so tired for them, the 2 of them felt even more apologetic. This little brother is really an honest person. Chu Yang rolled his eyelids weakly and said, Brothers, cough, I have something to remind you. Don't blame me for speaking too much. The 2 of them said in unison, Little brother, just say what you want to say. There's no need to be so polite between us. Chu Yang panted and said, These 2 prescriptions must not fall into the hands of that quack. Otherwise, brothers, I'm too worried people in the martial world are unpredictable, cough. Sha Xinliang and Qin Baoshan nodded at the same time. Little brother, even if you don't say it, we also know the pros and cons. How can we let others know about this? Not to mention that bastard already has ulterior motives. Besides, we have many enemies in the martial world. If they know that we're seriously injured, they'll flock to us. It'll be very bad. Chu Yang nodded and coughed continuously. He seemed to be so tired that he couldn't breathe. Sha Xinliang and Qin Baoshan each took one side and helped him to massage his back considerately. They used just the right amount of strength. After you've gathered all the herbs, hand them to me immediately or call me here. I'll use my secret technique to refine medicine. Chu Yang's breathing became smoother. Take note that these herbs must be well preserved. It's best if they're freshly picked herbs with the best efficacy. Of course. Once we've gathered all the herbs, we'll hand them to you immediately, the two of them vowed. There are many people in the Chu clan. It's not good to reveal your secret. After all, after taking the medicine, you'll still be in a weak state for a period of time. As long as the tear stain water seal is here, I'll bring the medicine furnace here and refine the medicine on the spot. Chu Yang was extremely considerate. He revealed all the dangers to them and avoided them. At that time, I'll stay close to you until you recover. Only then will I be at ease. The two of them held Chu Yang's hands at the same time and shook them vigorously. They felt so sad that their eyes were filled with tears. They didn't know what to say. This was the problem that the two of them were most worried about, but Chu Yang had already solved it for them. What a good person. Sha Xinliang suddenly felt ashamed. He thought to himself, I'm really not a human. Just now, I even wanted to kill such a good little brother and take back the 300 purple crystals. Alas, compared to his open and above-board heart, I'm really worse than a beast. Then, Chu Yang began to pant and rest. At the same time, his eyes flickered a little. It seemed that he had something to say, but couldn't say it. His expression was a little hesitant and startled. How experienced were Sha Xinliang and Qin Baoshan? How could they not see Chu Yang's abnormality? Although the two of them were in a hurry to find the medicine, they still felt uneasy when they saw Chu Ji's expression. At the same time they asked, Little brother, you seem to be worried about something? Yes, I am indeed worried. Chu Yang seemed to be in a trance. So, he blurted out this sentence. Then, he suddenly realized something. No, I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all. His smile was extremely forced, and anyone could tell that he was panicking, or perhaps, extremely terrified and full of misgivings. The two of them felt very strange. They frowned and pretended to be angry. Little brother, since we call each other brothers, could it be that you're hiding something from us? If that's the case, how sad and disappointed would we be? But, this is only my conjecture. The watermark of setting sail isn't accurate, and it's a matter of great importance. It's related to the Hall of Justice? Nothing. I don't dare to say. Chu Yang said aggrievedly. A matter of great importance? It's related to the Hall of Justice? The two of them looked solemn at the same time and said, Little brother, it's okay to say it. Even if it's wrong, it's okay. Only the heavens, the earth, you and I know this place. There's no fourth person here. Chu Yang was conflicted, struggling and hesitating. Finally, he said, This is what the two of you said to me. It's not what I want to say. If I have to bear any responsibility in the future, I can't bear it. That's for sure. The two of them also realized that it was probably really a matter of great importance. They couldn't help but raise their spirits. Since that's the case, I'll be frank. Actually, I'm very curious. Chu Yang frowned. Don't you two find it strange? You're the Hall of Justice. What kind of people are the Hall of Justice? What kind of organization is the Hall of Justice? How did this happen? This kind of quack doctor who specializes in harming people. No, calling him a quack doctor is too unfair. He's really a top-notch doctor. Because this brother harms people silently. He's doing it flawlessly. If I didn't have that fortuitous encounter, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to do anything. Chu Yang shook his head repeatedly. How can there be such a doctor in the Hall of Justice? The two of them looked solemn. They couldn't help but look at each other. They saw the seriousness in each other's eyes. Chu Yang said, As everyone knows, the Hall of Justice is in charge of the Hall of Justice in the heaven-level continent. That is to say, the Hall of Justice has the greatest authority. It's even higher than the big dominating clans. And there are no authorities here. Even if there were, they would be helpless against immortal-like people like the Dharma enforcers. But, there are still people who can disintegrate the Dharma enforcers, and that is a doctor. Chu Yang said heavily, This is just my speculation. A doctor's killing is even more difficult to guard against than a professional executioner. Moreover, he can delay the recovery of your injuries until you don't suspect him at all. Until now. If there's really some rebels, during a large-scale battle, The Hall of Justice collectively fell ill. Chu Yang said sincerely, I won't hide it from you two old brothers. I have this kind of ability. Moreover, so I'm worried that even if you two old brothers are cured, your life in Jianghu is full of dangers at every step. How can you not look for a doctor? The two's faces suddenly became as black as the bottom of a pot. Both of them had been suspicious about this matter. Now that Chu Yang had pointed it out clearly, the more they thought about it, the more scared they became. Qin Baoshan twisted his beard and frowned. Is there a conspiracy? Or is it an organization that's attacking us Hall of Justice? Sha Xinliang shuddered and thought of something. His face suddenly became as white as a sheet of paper. His lips trembled and his eyes stared blankly. He said, I remember. So it's like this, Qin Baoshan asked. What did you remember? Sha Xinliang's lips trembled. This Tong Wuxin was originally a doctor consecrated by the Shi clan. Last time when our doctor died suddenly and we couldn't find a suitable candidate, the Shi clan recommended him to the Hall of Justice. It's been so many years, a total of 13 years. If it's really like this, then this matter is serious. Sha Xinliang shuddered all over. Chu Yang's heart thumped and almost jumped out in an instant. Hypocrite. This is a huge gain. I originally wanted to sow discord among the quack doctors to increase my own status and get myself a stable source of income. But I didn't expect that one of the big clans, the Shi clan, was involved in this matter. This doctor was actually sent by the Shi clan. Since this is the case, I might as well detonate the heavens directly from here. In these 13 years, are there many casualties among the Hall of Justice? Chu Yang turned his eyes and frowned. He kindly reminded Sha Xinliang. This sentence was really nonsense. The Hall of Justice was in charge of everything in the heavens. Things happened almost all the time. How could there not be many casualties? Sure enough, casualties? Big. Why not? Extremely big. There are too many people who died for no reason. Sha Xinliang stared and cold sweat trickled down from his forehead. Right now, he was sweating a lot more than before. No wonder. I didn't kill him. What a despicable plan. Suddenly, he felt that the casualties among the Hall of Justice were all because of this quack doctor. The two looked at each other with lingering fear. Damn it, we didn't die because of this insidious bastard after so many years. We're really lucky. If this is really the case, could it be a conspiracy of the Shi clan? Qin Baoshan frowned and pondered deeply. The Shi clan definitely has something to do with this. Sha Xinliang said fiercely. But this matter can't be said casually. You and I can't afford to be implicated in this matter. We can only report to the Chief Hall of Justice as soon as possible. Let him decide. Qin Baoshan said. It's just that Tong Wuxin has become familiar with us after so many years. He calls everyone his brother. If you and I rashly, no one will believe us, and I'm afraid we'll be harmed instead. Sha Xinliang paced back and forth with a heavy heart. That's right. This matter is of great importance. How can the #1 doctor in the southeast region be convicted just because of our words? Qin Baoshan also frowned. But if we keep this person, the longer we keep him, the greater the danger will be, Sha Xinliang pondered deeply. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he said, Little brother, can you do me a favor after some time? Fearing that Chu Yang would refuse, Sha Xinliang said fervently, As long as little brother agrees, I can guarantee that the Chu clan and little brother will be here forever. There'll be no changes. And the entire flat mountain ridge will belong to the Chu clan. Chu Yang said cautiously, What favor? Brother Sha, I'm just worried about the safety of my two brothers. That's why I'm talking nonsense. I'm already very satisfied that my two brothers are magnanimous and don't blame me. Besides, you should also know that I shouldn't say or hear what I've said just now. To me, this is equivalent to the collapse of the sky. I'm afraid. I don't want you to be in any danger. Sha Xinliang's eyes were sincere and urgent. He pleaded, When the Chief Hall of Justice of the Southeast region comes over, little brother, can you take a look at his body? Qin Baoshan cheered loudly, Great plan. Sure you didn't sleep. When he was writing, he would think about the plot and list the plots that he was going to write. This list was not important, but it actually went from 1 to 53. I'm buying cakes. That is to say, I have to write 53 plots in a short period of time and push forward gradually. Thinking about it gave me a headache. Chapter 772. Chapter 47. The Triumphant Returns. Deception. Xia Xinliang and Qin Baoshan both knew that 12 years ago, the law enforcement master went through a lot of hardships to hunt down a Marshal Saint bandit. Although he killed the bandit in the end, he was also badly injured and almost died. It was Tong Wuxin who healed his injuries. This was also the reason why the law enforcement master protected Tong Wuxin and valued him so much. But if Tong Wuxin really had other plans, he wouldn't let go of such a good opportunity. So, as long as Chu Yang investigated and found out something, this Tong Wuxin's good days would really come to an end. And the lively days of the Shi clan would also come. It was imaginable that if the law enforcement master knew that he had been fooled by the Shi clan and Tong Wuxin for 13 years, with his temper and cultivation, how big of a mess would there be? Furthermore, if this matter were to be reported by the law enforcement master, then this would be a matter of life and death for the entire law enforcement organization. Not to mention other matters, other than taking revenge on the Shi clan, all the internal doctors of the law enforcement organization might be investigated. By then, the entire law enforcement organization would be in chaos. It was imaginable that the entire martial world would be in a bloodbath. I understand what you mean, elder brother Xia. Chu Yang also became serious. He solemnly and powerfully said, I don't dare to make any guarantees. But I assure you that I'll do my best. I'll do my best to sow discord in the world. It's best to involve all the big clans. We'll fight to the death. It's best if all of them die. Good brothers. Both of them were so touched that their eyes were brimming with tears. Both of them let go of their worries. If the law enforcement master was fine, they would at most not look for Tong Wuxin to treat their injuries. But if something happened to the law enforcement master, this would be a great contribution. Once something happened, this matter would definitely be a super conspiracy. Everything was ready, and the only thing they lacked was confirmation. And looking at Chu Yang's current means, such peerless medical skills would definitely be able to tell. Once this matter was confirmed, and this matter was discovered by both of them, how could this great contribution run away? His promotion was a matter that was set in stone. The reward was also obvious, and it would be a heavy one. Furthermore, there was another point. Because of this matter, as long as there was a storm, the doctors within the law enforcement officers would definitely be replaced. This brother Chu was young and had a clear background. Furthermore, the Chu clan was not very powerful and was easy to control. His medical skills were outstanding, and he was the one who uncovered the conspiracy. Therefore, it was unquestionable that Brother Chu would be valued by the law enforcement officers. In fact, it was not impossible for him to be the chief physician. When the time came, the three brothers would be as one. Wouldn't that mean that there would be someone on the outside, someone on the inside, someone in the medical field, and someone in the martial arts field? They would simply be the golden partners. At that time, the three of them would rise to the top together. Wow! The two of them looked forward to a bright future. Golden light flashed before their eyes. It was as if a path completely paved with purple crystals had been laid out in front of him. While the two of them were daydreaming, Divine Dr. Chu was also daydreaming. Chu Yang's harvest this time was really too big, too big, too big. Firstly, he had freed himself from suspicion. He had gone from being the most serious suspect to being completely innocent. Secondly, he had gained two powerful backers for himself. Thirdly, he had collected the medicine that he needed to recover his martial arts. Although he had not gotten it yet, Chu Yang was sure that it would be done very soon. Fourthly, he had obtained 2 of the 8 medicinal herbs that Chu needed. This was a huge harvest. Fifthly, he had planted a bomb for the law enforcement officers. Actually, Chu Yang did not expect that Dr. Tong Wuxin was actually sent by the Shi clan, one of the dominant clans, to curry favor with the law enforcement officers, but now, Chu Yang had turned this bargaining chip into a bomb that was enough to turn the Shi clan upside down. Furthermore, he had faintly paved another path for himself in the future. When the time came, as long as there was chaos, he would be able to attack or retreat. He would definitely be highly sought after by the law enforcement officers. And at that time, there would definitely be a lot of injured people, and he would be able to make a fortune. If there was really no other way, he could become the chief physician within the law enforcement officers. This was also something that he could consider. As for the internal problems of the Chu clan, Humph, Chu Filong, I'll immediately let you see how powerful these two new brothers of mine are. Minister Chu's heart was filled with joy. Under Sha Xinliang's and Qin Baoshan's endless gratitude, Chu Yang still pretended to be worried at heart, and repeatedly said, "Take care of yourselves." This moved the two brothers so much that their eyes glistened with tears. Before they left, Sha Xinliang took out a large plate of 200 purple crystals. And Qin Baoshan also took out a bag, which contained a total of 200 purple crystals. He had to give them to Chu Yang. Chu Yang desperately refused to accept them, and said sternly, "I know that the two brothers are doing this for my own good. And the two brothers also know that my martial arts have been destroyed, and I need the spiritual energy of the heaven and earth from the purple crystals to break through my meridians and recover my martial arts. Otherwise, I would not have extorted 300 purple crystals from the two law enforcement officers. To be honest, I'm very greedy for money, but the two brothers have treated me wholeheartedly and did not look down on me because of my lowly status. Instead, you treat me as equals. I'm already sincerely grateful. But how can I treat you wholeheartedly for the sake of purple crystals? The two brothers are looking down on me too much," he said righteously. "Although I lack purple crystals to the point of no return, I am still a human being if I still charge fees for treating your two elder brothers' illnesses." In the space of tribulation, the sword spirit was already twitching all over. "You fucker, to think that you can say that. You're saying that you're short of purple crystals and you're greedy for money, but you still insist on refusing. You're just digging a hole for yourself. Even if you don't want them, they'll still insist on giving them to you. If they don't give them to you, they'll feel guilty." Indeed, Sha Xinliang was displeased and said, "Little brother, you're wrong. Do you think that our purple crystals are the medical fees for you to treat your illness? We're not afraid of being laughed at by you, but the two of us are respectable people. Do we still need to spend money for treating your illness? Besides, even if you're a high priest of the Medicine Valley, it's not worth 200 purple crystals for treating your illness. We're giving these to our little brother, and it has nothing to do with treating your illness." He actually said angrily, "No matter if you're a divine doctor or a quack, since the two of us have taken a fancy to you, we'll definitely give you purple crystals. Little brother, do you understand?" Chu Yang said, "Elder brother, your words make me ashamed to death. The more it's like this, the more I can't accept them. Not only that, if I have more purple crystals in the future, I'll definitely be filial to you two elder brothers. As a younger brother, how can I take things from my elder brothers?" Qin Baoshan was displeased. He pretended to be angry and glared at Chu Yang. "Little brother, you're wrong. As a younger brother, if you don't take things from your elder brothers, how can you take things from other places? Besides, little brother, if you insist on not accepting them, are you looking down on the two of us?" Chu Yang was stunned. "Elder brother, don't misunderstand. I don't mean it like that. If you don't mean it like that, then accept them." Sha Xinliang roared and glared at Chu Yang. "I thought that you're looking down on us because we're old." Chu Yang's face was full of sweat, and he stuttered, This is simply a joke." Really? "Alas, since this is the case, I'll accept them shamelessly." "Alas, what do you think this is?" Divine Dr. Chu looked melancholy. "That's more like it." The two old men put the 2 bags of purple crystals in Chu Yang's arms and smiled contentedly, like 2 blooming chrysanthemums. "I'll keep them first. When the 2 elder brothers need them, I'll immediately send them back." Chu Yang said sadly, "Elder brothers, don't be in a hurry to reject them. It's also good to let me enjoy them. My heart will also feel more at ease." Sha Xinliang and Qin Baoshan were greatly moved. Little brother is really a kind person. They said, all right, we'll let you keep them for the time being. The two looked at each other and smiled. They thought, we'll never borrow money from little brother. We've already given them to you. Chu Yang nodded guiltily and sighed. Then he cupped his hands, bowed deeply and bade farewell. His face was full of hesitation, as if he had received a big gift from the two elder brothers. The young man felt very upset. It's inconvenient for little brother to carry so many purple crystals by himself. Guards! Sha Xinliang shouted, use my special carriage. It's clean inside and send my little brother back to the Chu clan. 4 iron plate martial artists and 2 silver plate martial artists will escort him. If anything happens to my little brother, you don't have to come back. Chu Yang bowed and bade farewell. He said sincerely, elder brothers, you have to hurry up with the medicine. I'll wait for your good news. The two nodded repeatedly. When Divine Dr. Chu sat in the carriage, the side of the carriage began to sway silently, and it went all the way out of the law enforcement hall. Looking at the trembling carriage, the coachman felt strange. There's only one person inside. Why is the carriage shaking? But he didn't know that Divine Dr. Chu was laughing silently in the carriage with his mouth wide open. His eyebrows danced in exultation, and he rolled back and forth, venting his excitement. Divine Dr. Chu returned with a fruitful journey, escorted by attendants. This law enforcement officer used the special carriage of Sha Xinliang, the leader of the law enforcement hall, to escort him. Even the masters of the Chu clan, Bao clan and Liao clan had never enjoyed such an exceptional treatment. This visit was actually more fruitful than the one that he had spent the whole night on that day. A total of 700 purple crystals were right in his arms. Making money requires wisdom, Minister Chu thought. Divine Dr. Chu reclined in the spacious carriage and crossed his legs proudly. With a flip of his hand, all the purple crystals disappeared without a trace. These are all mine, 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 mine. Second update for today. Tomorrow's update will start from the early morning. Brothers and sisters who are still online at that time, please give me a few recommendation votes. Thank you. Chapter 773. This time, Chu Yang had made a fortune. In addition to the 300 purple crystals that Chu Yang had extorted from Qin Baoshan, Chu Yang now had a total of 1,000 purple crystals in his space. And there were 200 pieces that had been cut open. This was Divine Dr. Chu's private property. In addition to the 400 purple crystals that Chu Fian had used to issue missions, there were close to 1,700 purple crystals. And these were only the income of Divine Dr. Chu in the past 5 days since he opened his medical center. And in these 5 days, there were 3.5 days where he didn't go to work. Such speed was simply the world's #1 money-making master. As for the whereabouts of these purple crystals, return them to the clan? Making a ruckus was definitely not a viable option. How could a rabbit grow wings and fly away? Could a rabbit grow wings? Obviously, it couldn't. So Divine Dr. Chu had to fill his own pockets, and Sha Xinliang and Qin Baoshan had already started to get busy after Chu Yang went out. How could they not be busy? This involved the lives of 2 people. After handing over the task of collecting medicinal herbs to their subordinates, the 2 of them heaved a sigh of relief. Of course, the 2 of them weren't completely brainless. They messed up the list of medicinal herbs that they needed, and let their subordinates search for them with 1 or 2 medicinal herbs. Of course, they first extorted as much as they could from the nearest few big clans. Those that couldn't be extorted were the things that required more effort. After they were busy with their own interests, the 2 of them finally wrote a letter. They didn't say clearly in the letter, but only said that a major matter had happened in the flat mountain ridge, and they earnestly requested for Lord Fa to come and deal with it personally. It was a big conspiracy that concerned the life and death of their subordinates, and could even cause the heavenly layer to be overturned. The details couldn't be explained in the letter. In short, he made it sound as serious as it could possibly be, adding 2 pounds of weight. In short, they thought, if Lord Fa doesn't come, it'll be really terrible this time. Maybe even the Dharma Supreme won't be able to see the sun next year. Then, they passed the message out. Of course, The only thing left was to wait. Sha Xinliang and Qin Baoshan were very excited. Chu Yang didn't know about all these and he didn't care. He was now sitting in a luxurious carriage, crossing his legs and humming a tune. He walked step by step towards the Chu clan that was dozens of miles away. He even had time to take a nap in the carriage. He had no idea that the Chu clan was in a complete mess right now. 2 flowers bloomed, one on each side. Not even 4 hours had passed since Chu Yang had been taken away. Suddenly, the sound of horse hooves could be heard on the main road of the flat mountain ridge. The sound of horse hooves was extremely loud. It was enough to show that the riders on the horses were burning with anxiety. The people on the streets of Wujin town craned their necks to look at each other. Just as they raised their heads, the sound of horse hooves approached them. A large group of warriors draped in bright red cloaks. Every one of them looked ferocious and murderous. There were a total of 200 of them. Their blood-red cloaks fluttered in the wind as they ran. Like a blood cloud, they rushed into Wujin town in the flat mountain ridge with a loud boom. Then he galloped on the wide street, heading straight for the Chu family. This group of people had no scruples at all. They were simply charging forward without any restraint. Along the way, they overturned the Bao family's grain store and kicked away the Liao family's signboard. A few people who had just come out wanted to argue with them. However, when they saw this group of blood-red figures, they shrank back inside. The 2 people leading this group of blood-red cavalry were dressed in white robes that were not tainted by a speck of dust. The person in the lead had a beard that was almost the same color as his cloak. He was an old man with a square face and a wide mouth. He had a lion's nose and tiger's eyes. He had a strong back and a bear's waist. His eyes seemed to have an aura of disdain for the world. At this moment, his face was filled with excitement and anxiety. He beat his horse crazily. Giddy up! Giddy up! Giddy up! The person in white beside him was a man in his prime. Judging from his face, he seemed to be a father. However, this man looked to be in his 40s. His face was full of curly hair that almost covered his eyes. His body was especially huge. He was even more muscular than his father. Riding on the horse, he looked like a black iron tower. Fortunately, this horse was a 1-in-a-million dragon steed. If it was an ordinary warhorse, it would have collapsed on the spot. There were actually 3 large carriages in the group. The group was galloping like thunder. However, the carriages were extremely stable and did not shake much. It could be seen that the coachman's driving skills had already reached the peak. There were also a few fierce-looking blood-red cavalry beside the carriages. As long as there was a ravine, a few of them would reach out their hands and the carriages would soar into the air. Even the horses would fly over the ravine steadily. Then, they would land on the ground and continue galloping without stopping. This kind of cooperation really made people gasp in amazement. Wherever the carriages passed, a fragrant wind would float out. It could be seen that the people in the carriages were women. The old man in the lead had a heroic air about him. He looked around and laughed loudly. "Little bear, tell me, this old man has come with enough face this time. What do you think? Maybe he can let my poor nephew hold his head high in his house?" Well, the big man next to him who was as strong as a bear was actually called Little Bear. This name was really worthy of the name. However, it was more or less a little too useful. That big man laughed like thunder. "Of course." Then he lowered his voice. "Father, in front of so many people, can you not call me Little Bear?" The old man suddenly became angry. The horse galloped wildly and glared at him. "Your mother's fart. If I don't call you Little Bear, should I call you Father?" Little Bear is Little Bear. The big man shrank his neck and stopped talking. However, someone in the carriage could not stand it. An old woman's voice scolded in dissatisfaction. "Old bastard. If you want to discipline your son, then discipline him. How can you make him fart? What the hell did he do to you?" A gentle voice persuaded. "Granny, don't be angry. Father has such a violent temper. He has such a violent temper?" The old woman in the carriage snorted and said, "Why is he so violent? He doesn't dare to be violent after being scolded by me? Old bastard who bullies the weak and fears the strong." The old man at the front of the troop did not dare to be violent anymore. He just kept shouting, "Giddy up, giddy up, giddy up, giddy up, giddy up, giddy up. You bastards, why are you so slow? Hurry up for old Wu. Faster. Faster. Motherfucker, motherfucker, motherfucker." Instead, he vented all his anger on others. Therefore, the blood-red clothes troop was like a gust of wind, sweeping past. The troop of horses galloped with a power that could split heaven and earth, leaving behind a trail of smoke and dust that went straight to the sky. It filled the entire sky of Wujin town. A person by the roadside looked at the troop of horses that were far away and said, "What an elite troop! Where are these crazy people from? So arrogant?" A well-informed man next to him sneered and said, "You don't even know this? You're really ignorant. This is the Yang family's blood-red clothes troop of Aspen Valley. It's the world's top elite force. Do you see it? The old man in the lead is the head of the Yang family, Yang Bao. The man behind him is Yang Bao's son, Yang Ruoxiong. He's also the commander of the blood-red clothes troop. So they're from the Yang family. No wonder they're so powerful." The man from before stuck out his tongue. When they were about 3 to 4 miles away from the Chu family, Master Yang Bao suddenly roared, "Old bastard Chu Xiongqing, come out and welcome your in-laws. What are you waiting for?" His voice was like thunder, spreading out in all directions in an instant, echoing between heaven and earth. "Old bastard, bastard." Everyone who heard it laughed in their hearts. If your in-laws are old bastards, then what are you? In the Chu family, Master Chu, who was frowning, was so angry when he heard this thunderous roar. This old hooligan is here again. And this bastard is still the same as before. He purposely added the echo sound technique to the words "old bastard," making these words float in the air and echo for 3 days. I've never seen such a boorish person. Motherfucker, it's really bad luck to have such a relative. Master Chu was furious and roared, "I was wondering who's coming. So it's old Yang, you old bastard." As he spoke, he ordered, "Go and invite first young master, first young mistress, and all the relatives of the Chu family to welcome them at the gate." As he spoke, he hurriedly walked out. Master Chu knew very well that his in-laws had a bad temper. If he didn't hurry out, he was afraid that this old bastard would really rush into the Chu family's gate. As he walked, he cursed. After 5 steps, he suddenly let out an "ah" and was stunned on the spot. Yang Bao, this old hooligan, definitely came here today to see his grandson. This old bastard must have received the news sent by his men and couldn't wait to see his grandson, so he came here directly. In these 18 years, the number of times Yang Bao came here could be counted. Every time he came, it was because of his grandson's disappearance. He would scold Master Chu, and then the two of them would fight for a while. After that, Master Chu would return to his room to heal his wounds, while Yang Bao would return with a bruised nose and a swollen face. This old bastard didn't even think about it. "You're heartbroken because you lost your grandson, but do you think I'm not heartbroken because I lost my biological grandson?" This time, he had found him. Yang Bao had definitely come in high spirits. Moreover, judging from the time, this old man had definitely rushed over after receiving the news. It was easy to imagine how excited Master Yang's heart was. This might be the only time the two of them didn't fight since they met. But, where's my grandson? Where's my grandson? He was taken away by the Hall of Justice. Oh my God, why did such an old bastard come out to mess things up at such a critical juncture? How am I supposed to deal with this? Master Chu was like an ant on a hot pan. This time was different from the past. If they couldn't find him in the past, then so be it. Everyone knew that there was nothing they could do about it. But this time he finally came back. But at this critical juncture, he was taken away by the Hall of Justice. The side that was in the wrong was all on his side. Yang Bao originally came here in high spirits. If Master Chu were to throw cold water on him, with this old bastard's temper, it would be strange if he didn't tear down the Chu clan alive. Old Master Chu sighed, but he didn't dare to delay. He hurriedly walked towards the door. Halfway through, Chu Feilong hurriedly came to report, "Old Master Yang, together with Yang Ruoxiong, the ladies of the Yang clan, including old Lady Yang, and 200 members of the blood-clothed troop, had come to visit. Master Chu's face turned pale on the spot. Chapter 774. Old Master Chu Xiongqing wanted to find a hole to hide in. That old woman was even scarier than Yang Bao. Back then, he and Yang Bao were rivals in love. At that time, they were almost irreconcilable. But fortunately, he lost in the competition for love in the end. Otherwise, if he really married her, it would be even more difficult for him to live. Ever since that old bastard Yang Bao found a wife, his leg skills had become even more powerful. That was trained by kneeling on an iron abacus. Who would have thought that the delicate little beauty back then would be so valiant after marrying someone else? Ever since old Master Chu heard that Yang Bao did not lead a good life after marriage and was repeatedly abused, he was so excited that he got drunk for a few days. Every day he would say, "That was close. Luckily, I managed to escape." Hearing about that bastard Yang Bao's experience really made me feel good. But now, the two of them came together. Old Master Chu wanted to run away in an instant. But it was too late. He was already surrounded by his son and family members and walked towards the door. Along the way, old Master Chu's eyes darted around. He wanted to find a place to fool them. But before he could think of a reason, they had already reached the door. With a loud rumble, the Yang family's horse team rushed over from a distance of a stone's throw away. That rapid speed was about to trample the Chu family to the ground. But when they were 10 feet away from the door, old Master Yang Bao shouted, "Stop!" All of the horses stood up at the same time. With a long neigh, they actually stopped in an orderly manner with a bang. A cloud of dust, like a tornado in the desert, poured into the Chu clan's main gate with a bang. None of the people who came out to greet the guests were an exception. They were all covered in dust from head to toe. Their shiny long robes suddenly turned into the attire of refugees. Their faces were covered in dust, and everyone had sand in their mouths. They stared angrily at the evil guests in front of them. Old Master Chu was caught off guard. He swallowed a mouthful of dust and was furious. "Yang Bao, don't think that I'm afraid of you. How dare you behave so atrociously in front of my Chu family?" Old Master Yang Bao's snow-white beard straightened. He was overjoyed. "Pa, old bastard Chu, I haven't seen you for so many years. You're still alive." Chu Xiongqing said angrily, "Even if you do, I don't know how to do that." A voice in the carriage snorted and said, "Chu Xiongqing, are you cursing me to be a widow?" Chu Xiongqing was stunned and his face was full of sweat. You're here too?" Master Yang Bao looked at Chu Xiongqing with a victorious look. He laughed happily and said, "Chu Xiongqing, you didn't expect my wife to be here, did you?" Old Master Chu's chest felt stifled as he retorted sarcastically, "All these years, how many iron abacuses have been ruined?" "Kneel on your balls." Yang Bao was hit where it hurt. He was instantly enraged and was about to flare up. At this moment, Chu Failing and Yang Ruolin rushed over. Yang Ruolin shouted from afar, "Father, Mother, why didn't you tell us in advance that you were coming?" "I didn't tell you in advance just to give you a surprise." Yang Bao shook his head, "Now that I've found my grandson, I won't be angry with all of you. Chu Xiongqing, if you don't let the guests in, what are you waiting for?" Old Master Chu snorted resentfully. He stepped aside and said, Please come in." Yang Bao jumped down from the horse and laughed out loud. He strode through the door and asked with a loud voice, "Where is my grandson? Why didn't you let him come out to greet his grandfather?" "Wah, I haven't seen that little thing for 18 years. It was only a foot long then, but now it's a foot long." Chu Xiongqing's face was instantly filled with yellow veins. Under the escort of the Chu clan's people, the Yang clan's people were finally welcomed in. Someone went to greet the 200 blood-clothed troops, and the important people came to the Chu clan's meeting hall. The important relatives came. Old Master Chu, Chu Failing and his wife, Chu Failong and his wife, the few grandchildren of the Chu clan, Duan Shi and her children, and Chu Fian's wife and her children were all present. Chu Fian was helping Divine Dr. Chu to look after the shop, so he naturally wasn't present. As for the Yang clan, Old Master Yang Bao and his wife, Yang Ruoxiong and his wife were present. Besides, there were two young men who looked like Yang Ruoxiong. They were tall and strong but lacked the beard. Besides, there was also a young girl in red clothes with bright eyes and white teeth. She was Yang Ruoxiong's daughter and Chu Yang's cousin. Chu Feiling sat on his seat obediently. Every time he saw the appearance of his father-in-law and uncle, Chu Feiling couldn't help but be speechless. He even had to thank the gods in his heart. Fortunately, Rulin doesn't look like her father and brother. Otherwise, how can I live on? The housekeeper asked someone to serve tea, and the whole hall was filled with the fragrance of tea. Chu Feiling's eldest uncle, Yang Ruoxiong, sat down on a chair in the hall. Everyone heard a creaking sound from the chair. The chair almost fell apart when this burly man sat on it. Picking up the teacup, he didn't care if it was hot or not. Gulping, he drank the entire cup of tea along with the tea. After chewing and swallowing, he said, "Bah, this isn't good tea. It's so bitter." The young girl in red was at a loss. "Father, don't speak if you don't understand. Even the tea is bitter." Yang Ruoxiong opened his mouth. "Good girl, how can I not know that tea is bitter?" Chu Feiling rolled his eyes and thought, "Why did you say that when you know? I finally understand now. Today, I asked you to come here purely to play the fool and see what you're up to." Master Yang Bao parted his mustache and poured the tea into his mouth. Then he slowly put down the teacup and said, "Chu Xiongqing, is this your welcoming lineup?" Master Chu had ulterior motives. He smiled and said, "In-law, have some tea first." "Why are you drinking tea?" Yang Bao stood up. "I've seen these people before, but my grandson hasn't. But there's no one here." He laughed weirdly. "Why? Do you want to give me a surprise? He's not a treasure. Hurry up and ask him to come out. I want to see how he's grown after being outside for 18.5 years. Chu Xiongqing's face twitched. He forced a smile and said in a low voice, "This? Yang isn't at home now. He might be at the clinic." "Then why aren't you calling him?" Yang Bao stared. Chu Xiongqing looked at old Mistress Yang for help. "In-law." Old Mistress Yang looked very blessed. She had a kind face and white hair. She was still beautiful between her eyebrows. One could still vaguely see the supreme elegance she had when she was young. She looked at Chu Xiongqing and sighed. "Xiongqing, we haven't seen each other for many years." Chu Xiongqing was stunned and sighed. Yes. He recalled the memories of his youth. "Where are my two younger sisters?" Old Mistress Yang sighed and asked, "Why don't I see them?" Master Chu sighed and pointed to the ground under his feet. He said sadly, "They've already gone down." Sigh, "You've been alone for so many years?" Old Mistress Yang said sympathetically, "You've had it tough. A young couple will accompany each other in old age." Master Chu looked up and sighed. "It's a long story." He thought to himself, "Even if I'm an old bachelor, it's still much easier than marrying you back then. Otherwise, I'd be the one using the iron abacus to practice the iron knee divine technique. I'm better than Yang Bao in that I know how to protect myself." But of course, he didn't dare to say this out. Master Yang Bao looked at this and that. He opened his mouth and swallowed his words. Then, he opened his mouth again and felt a sense of jealousy rising from his heart. He roared, "Let's talk about serious matters. Let's talk about serious matters." As he said, he muttered, "Damn it, I didn't ask you to come here for a blind date. I'm a little worried." "What did you say? What do you mean by a little worried?" Old Mistress Yang slammed her walking stick on the ground. With a loud bang, 5 of the bluestone tiles in the Chu residence cracked. She stared at her husband angrily. Master Chu looked at the cracked tiles. The corner of his mouth twitched and twitched again. "I didn't say anything." Master Yang tilted his head and stiffened his neck. "How dare you? You still dare to talk back to me?" Old Mistress Yang's roar was like a lion roaring from the east. Master Chu Xiongqing covered his ears and moaned, "Oh my God." Luckily, Yang Bao was angry, but he didn't dare to say anything. He glared at them for a long time before he finally admitted defeat. Like a defeated rooster, he said, "I saw the two of you exchanging glances with each other. You seem to have the intention of rekindling old feelings." This old man had to be on guard. If someone were to steal her away at such an old age, it wouldn't look good. Seduce your grandma. Old Mistress Yang was furious. She smacked him with her walking stick. Master Yang didn't dodge. With a bang, the crutch smashed into his back, producing a metallic sound. After a muffled groan, he actually acted as if nothing had happened. Chu Xiongqing's mouth twitched. He thought to himself, looking at this situation, not only does he have to practice the Iron Knee Divine Technique, he also has to practice the Iron Back Divine Technique. This Yang Bao seems to have practiced it to the peak. I wonder how many beatings he has to take to reach this level. When he thought of this, he felt refreshed. Yang Ruolin hurriedly went forward to persuade her mother. Mother, we're in public and we're here. Can't you leave father some face? Old Mistress Yang said angrily. Am I not leaving him any face? Look at your father, this old bastard. What kind of green turtle is he talking about? Master Yang Bao snorted softly. If I become a green turtle, I can't blame anyone else. He said this sentence very softly. Old Mistress Yang didn't hear it clearly. She shouted, What did you say? Say it again. Master Yang Bao stroked his long beard and pretended to be sage-like. He looked down and didn't say anything. Chapter 775. Yang Ruolin wanted to persuade him again, but Yang Ruoxiong said in a low and muffled voice, Sister, don't persuade him. You know that our father can take a beating. Furthermore, although Mother's strike looked scary, she didn't use any strength at all. It was all skillful. Who couldn't tell? As he said this unbearable uncle snorted in disdain, but he didn't forget to add a few words. Moreover, this kind of scene is played out at least 8 to 10 times a day in our family. The two elders are flirting. Before he finished speaking, two figures pounced on each other. Crackling sounds could be heard, mixed with angry roars. I'll let you flirt. You unfilial son. I'll flirt with you. After a while, old Mistress Yang stood up and returned to her seat gracefully. She picked up her teacup and drank tea gracefully. Old Master Yang stroked his beard and walked back to his seat. He looked down as if he was meditating. In the middle of the Chu clan's hall, there was a pig-headed man whose face couldn't be recognized. Then, the pig-headed man got up and rubbed his face. He patted the dust off his body as if nothing had happened. He sat back on his chair and picked up his teacup. With a gulp, he drank the tea in one gulp. Then he blinked his swollen eyes and looked at everyone. After a long time, no one spoke. The pig-headed man wondered, Why aren't you talking? The girl in red covered her face and shrank into her chair. Yang Ruolin held her forehead and was speechless for a long time. Chu Feiling was speechless. On the Chu clan side, not to mention the others, even old Master Chu and Chu Feilong, who had the best composure, widened their eyes. They were speechless as they looked at Chu Feiling's valiant uncle. Although old Master Chu was shocked, he also felt refreshed. Fortunately, otherwise, even my sons would have suffered a calamity. He glanced at his eldest daughter-in-law and thought, It's really not easy for Ruolin to produce such a daughter in such a family. Old Master Yang Bao suddenly said, You've already beaten them up and seen the joke. Why aren't you sending someone to call my grandson? Ruolin, quickly, call your son back. There were guests at home, so why bother with the clinic? I think he's just hanging a sheep's head to sell gourd meat to blackmail two people. It had to be said that old Master Yang's words had thoroughly explained the original intention and purpose of Divine Dr. Chu's medical center. Yang Ruolan's face turned pale and she was about to cry. Yang, what's wrong? Old Master Yang Bao instantly sensed that something was amiss and widened his eyes. What's wrong with my grandson? Chu Feiling saw that things were not going well. He braced himself and stood up. Father-in-law Yang, shut up. Yang Bao glared at him. I haven't taught you a lesson for the past 2 years, but you actually started a fight with the 5 people in front of Old Wu. Move aside, let Lan speak. Yang Ruolan's tears flowed down. She had been holding it in for a long time. Now that her parents were in front of her, how could she hold back the grievances and concern in her heart? Yang Ruolan's tears streamed down her cheeks as she thought about how her son's birth was still uncertain. Yang Bao and old Mistress Yang's expressions also became more and more unsightly. The atmosphere was heavy. Yang Bao asked again and again. Yang Ruolan was sobbing. "What's wrong? Hurry up and tell me." Old Master Yang Bao was so anxious that he flew into a rage. He pulled his hair with all his might and shouted, "Do you want to make your father anxious? What's wrong with the child? Why don't you fart?" Cough cough cough. This matter, it's like this. Chu Xiongqing saw that things were not going well. He could only force himself to put on a smile and stood up. He lowered his voice and stammered as he explained. Old Master Yang looked at him fiercely. "What's going on? Tell me, have you become a fucking woman too? He can't even let out a fart." Old Master Chu Xiongqing took a deep breath and said, "It's like this. Brother Yang, as everyone knows, didn't a short and fat man with strong martial arts come to the flat mountain ridge that day? He injured a lot of people. What does that have to do with my grandson?" Yang Bao raised his eyes and asked, "I know that there was a short and fat man who caused trouble, but I left home that day. I don't know anything else. Does this matter have anything to do with my grandson? Could it be that my grandson is actually a short and fat man?" He looked at Chu Failing and Yang Ruolan and frowned for a moment. He shook his head and said, "Look at them, they can't be short and fat, right? If that's the case, then it's like a camel coming out from a herd of horses. I don't believe it." Old Master Chu smiled bitterly and stammered, "It has nothing to do with it. Of course, the short and fat man isn't your grandson. But this is what happened. Yang opened a clinic at that time. Among the people who were injured by the short and fat man, there were people from the Chu clan, the Bao clan, the Liao clan, and even people from the Shao clan. There were even people from the Shao clan. And this short and fat man used his unique martial arts. No one else could treat the people he injured." Old Master Yang Bao was confused. "What are you talking about? What does this have to do with my grandson?" Old Master Chu said with difficulty, "But Yang just had to open the clinic the day before that. Furthermore, he was able to treat this injury." Old Master Chu sighed. It would have been fine if he was able to treat it, but because Yang was injured, he needed purple crystals. Hence, the medical fees were a little higher. This aroused the suspicion of the law enforcers. Yang Bao opened his eyes wider and wider, and the violence in his eyes became more and more intense. He was about to lose control of his breathing. Seeing that the situation was not good, this old man was about to explode. Old Master Chu waved his hand and shouted, "All of you leave." Instantly, Chu Feilong led his family members and disappeared like a whirlwind. He knew that these two old men were about to meet for real today. After sending Chu Lu, Chu Tinghu and the rest out of the hall, Chu Feilong hurried back. Yang Bao's emotions suddenly calmed down. With a strange and dangerous calmness, he tried his best to control his voice and said lightly, "And then." Although his voice was calm, anyone could tell that this old man was on the verge of exploding. He had already reached the point of exploding, and his anger was still rising. Old Master Chu Xiongqing actually felt a little scared. He knew that he couldn't avoid this matter, and said with a long face, "Then, those people came to ask for Yang, and said that they wanted to go back and investigate. Yang left with them? He left with them just like that?" Yang Bao opened his eyes wide, and looked as if he was going to swallow old Master Chu alive. "As a grandfather, you just watched as your grandson was taken away by those people?" The people of the Yang family immediately exploded. They didn't expect that when they came to see their nephew excitedly, they would discover that the Chu clan had caused his nephew to disappear again. Yang Bao suddenly jumped up and jumped in front of Chu Xiongqing. His face was full of saliva, and he spat at Chu Xiongqing, "You old bastard, old bastard, old bastard, old coward. You've been a coward since you were young, and you've actually been a coward until you're old. Even my grandson is a coward." Old Master Chu's face turned red, and he finally flew into a rage out of humiliation. He stomped his feet and scolded, "What can I do? That's my grandson. How can I not want to stay? He's a fucking law enforcer. Do you know what a law enforcer is? Can you afford to offend him? Bullshit. Even if I can't afford to offend him, I still have to." Yang Bao's voice became louder. There are too many forces in this world that you and I can't afford to offend. Don't tell me that I'll just hand over my grandson to anyone who comes to ask for him? So what if he's a law enforcer? Bullshit. Chu Xiongqing was so angry that his whole body trembled. It's not like you don't know what a law enforcer is capable of. Don't tell me that I have to sacrifice my entire family for a grandson. It's not a big deal for a law enforcer to destroy a clan like ours. Besides, I've already bribed him, and Yang Yang's only going there to clarify the truth. You want me to sacrifice the lives of my entire family just like that? If it's you, can you do it? I can do it. Yang Bao roared angrily. Even if all the big aristocratic families gather, the law enforcers and the 3 Stars Divine clan join hands, if they want to take my grandson, they'll have to kill everyone in the Yang clan first. He roared. Chu Xiongqing, you don't have the guts. I don't have the guts. Chu Xiongqing was furious. You dare to scold me? You're asking for a beating. Yang Bao was furious. Yes, my grandson has just returned to the clan, but you didn't give him the purple crystals that he needed. You actually let him open his own medical center to earn money at such a young age. You're just discriminating against him. Since when did you treat him as your grandson? You even keep calling him your grandson? Don't you think that you're looking down on him, you bastard? He roared thunderously. My grandson has been mistreated by your Chu clan for 18.5 years. Now that he's finally back, your Chu clan still wants to do this. Not only did you mistreat him again, you didn't even protect him and gave him to the law enforcer. Chu Xiongqing. Good job. You're a good grandfather, a good clan master. His face turned red. He tore off his cloak and threw it on the ground heavily. Chu Xiongqing, I've known you for decades, but I've only seen you clearly today. Come. Today I'll fight you to the death. You motherfucker, you motherfucker. Old Master Chu was furious. Unreasonable bastard, you think I'm afraid of you. You don't know right from wrong, you don't understand reason, you only know how to act recklessly. Come. If I let you walk out of the door today, I'll write my name Chu upside down. Everyone hurried forward to mediate, but the 2 old masters had already rushed forward. In an instant, there was a loud bang as the 2 of them collided with each other. Everyone cried out in alarm as the entire hall collapsed. The 2 masters were like hidden dragons soaring into the sky as they flew out from the big hole in the roof. They fought fiercely in the sky, throwing punches and kicks back and forth while cursing at the same time. If I can't beat you, I'll also let down my wronged nephew. Bastard, I'll beat you, you unreasonable bastard. Take this, you old bastard. Chapter 776. Both masters had fiery tempers. In comparison, Master Yang had a fiery temper that didn't care about anything. However, Master Chu was still able to consider the big picture. Now that they were fighting for real, both of them attacked ferociously and didn't dodge at all. The onlookers below were shocked and dazzled. Rumbling sounds could be heard. Both of them fought from the east to the west, from the west to the east, from the south to the north. Everywhere they passed, the scenery below was destroyed as if it had been attacked by a storm. 2 rumbling sounds could be heard at the same time. Chu Xiongqing punched Yang Bao's left shoulder, while Yang Bao was kicked by Chu Xiongqing on his right shoulder. Both of them lost their balance at the same time and fell from the sky like meteorites. They slammed onto the ground with a loud bang, causing the ground to tremble. Then they jumped up again and continued to fight. After dozens of punches, both of them returned to the sky. Then, a dazzling fight ensued. Countless Old Master Chu and Old Master Yang appeared out of thin air. Then, all of the figures disappeared at the same time. The 2 of them grabbed each other's hair and pulled each other's beard. They rolled around each other and landed on the ground like a street brawl. After landing, they didn't separate from each other. They rolled around on the ground, punching and kicking each other. As they beat each other up, they scolded each other. In the end, they pulled out all the grudges of the past decades. They became angrier and angrier. It was as if they couldn't live under the same sky. You didn't have the guts back then, and you still don't have the guts now. You snatched my wife back then, and today, you bullied my grandson. You and I can't exist under the same sky. Yang Bao shouted. I let you go back then because I wanted you to kneel on the abacus. You kowtow worm, henpecked coward, a coward who is afraid of your wife. You used to wash your wife's feet every day. How dare you come to my house and behave atrociously? I'll fucking beat you up. I'll make you explode. I'll make you explode. I'll make you explode. Bang 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 bang. In just a blink of an eye, the two masters who were originally sanctimonious were bruised and swollen. The onlookers' eyebrows twitched and their faces twitched. Old Mistress Yang's face was gloomy. She couldn't restrain her anger and suddenly roared, Yang Bao, didn't you eat? Beat this old bastard up. When Old Master Yang heard this, he turned around. Old Master Chu saw the opportunity and ruthlessly punched Yang Bao's eye socket. Yang Bao didn't show any mercy. With a loud roar, he punched Old Master Chu's nose, causing blood to flow from his nose. Sometimes Yang Bao was on top, raising his fist and smashing it downwards. Sometimes, Chu Xiongqing was on top, riding on Yang Bao and slamming it downwards. In an instant, dozens of holes appeared on the flat ground. Countless cracks slowly appeared on the surrounding walls. It seemed that after this fight, the Chu clan would have to renovate the house. Suddenly, Chu Xiongqing, who was below, kicked hard on Yang Bao's stomach. Yang Bao was thrown out like a cloud. Chu Xiongqing leaped up and caught up with Yang Bao in midair. Both of them fell into the garden and rolled into the fish pond. Instantly, the water splashed everywhere. Both of them were fighting in the water. Then, it flew out and rolled on the ground. Both of them didn't use any weapons. They only fought with their fists and feet. They punched and kicked each other. There was no pattern. Although Old Master Chu was tough, Old Master Yang was even tougher. Seeing that Old Master Chu was about to lose, Chu Feilong was about to attack. Yang Ruoxiong laughed loudly, Chu Feilong, I'll fight with you. Chu Feilong was stunned. He was about to say, I don't want to fight with you. But Yang Ruoxiong had already rushed over like a bull. His fan-like hands smashed towards Chu Feilong. Chu Feilong tried to block it, but a huge force came over. He was caught off guard and retreated 7 or 8 feet as if he was on a skateboard. Yang Ruoxiong shouted. His sturdy body flew up into the air and pounced on Chu Feilong ferociously. Chu Feilong didn't want to be outdone. He focused all his attention on his enemy. Another battle instantly broke out. In an instant, the entire courtyard of the Chu clan became a battlefield. The guards of the Chu clan and the bloody clothes team of the Yang clan rushed up at the same time. Chu Feiling and Yang Rulin shouted anxiously, Don't attack. Kill anyone who dares to attack. Instantly, hundreds of big men stood there in a daze, as if they were watching a show. Chu Feiling and Yang Rulin looked at each other and saw the anxiety and contradiction in their eyes. What should we do? Old Mistress Yang was holding a cup of tea. The girl in red was serving her by her side. Although she was anxious, she didn't dare to speak. Are you done yet? Old Mistress Yang roared when she saw that the fight was almost over. If it were any other time, the two old men would have stopped after hearing such a shout. But now, both of them were enraged. They actually didn't listen to the command and continued to fight without paying attention to it. Clumps of dirt flew into the air. The sky was originally blue, but in an instant, it was as if it was covered with dark clouds. Old Mistress Yang felt embarrassed. She wanted to teach them a lesson. At this moment, she actually felt embarrassed. At this moment, there was an exclamation at the gate. A voice said in surprise, What's going on? Who dares to behave atrociously here? Following the voice, a figure walked in slowly. His face was full of surprise. Yang Ruolan cried out in surprise, Yang. She rushed over as if she was flying. Both parties were fighting fiercely here, and the culprit who caused this fight actually came back safe and sound at this moment. The person who came was Chu Yang. He came out from the law enforcement hall. Before he walked halfway, he saw that the Chu clan was in full swing. Dust filled the sky. He was shocked and urged the coachman to speed up. After all, the special carriage of the law enforcement officers was extraordinary. Not only was it comfortable, but it was also fast. As he sped up, he quickly arrived at the Chu clan. When he reached the gate, he saw that it was a mess inside. The original splendor was completely gone. Chu Yang was shocked. He took a closer look and saw that his grandfather Chu Xiongqing was fighting with an old man who looked like a leopard. Chu Feilong was also fighting with a big man who looked like a bull. And the rest of the Chu clan, including his own parents, were actually just standing aside and watching the fight? Even though Chu Yang was intelligent and quick-witted, he was also confused at this moment. Wasn't this situation a little too bizarre? He couldn't help but exclaim. Then, Yang Rulin came over and hugged Chu Yang. She said as if she had received a treasure, Yang, are you okay? I'm fine. Actually, the seniors from the law enforcement hall just asked me to see a doctor. What can happen? Chu Yang naturally wouldn't tell her the whole story. I see. Yang Rulin was instantly relieved. Not only that, after the fight, that Senior Shah specially sent me back in his own carriage. Chu Yang pointed and smiled. This big brother is a law enforcement officer. He specially escorted me back. Yang Rulin was even more delighted. Her son was really too promising. Even the enforcers would think highly of him. She felt a sense of glory. Chu Yang went up to greet them and invited them to have some tea. How could the law enforcement officers not know that he was just being courteous? Besides, the Chu clan now, why would they still drink tea? It was more like drinking dirt. One of them glanced and said, Young Master Chu, do you need our help? This person had been instructed by Sha Xinliang to listen to Chu Yang. Now that he saw that someone was actually making trouble in the Chu clan, he immediately wanted to do something. Chu Yang looked at his mother inquiringly. Yang Rulin was shocked and hurriedly waved her hands. Yang, that's your grandfather? He blames your grandfather for not protecting you well and being caught by the law enforcement officers. So they fought. Chu Yang smiled bitterly. So that's what happened. This law enforcement officer also smiled and said, since it's a family matter, it's not convenient for us to intervene. Young Master Chu will take our leave now. Chu Yang didn't dare to neglect. He smiled and said, Big brothers, take care. The two's faces couldn't help but twitch a little. They said, goodbye. They thought, we're about the same age as your grandfather, but you actually called us big brothers. They didn't say anything more. They bowed respectfully and turned to leave. Yang Rulin clicked her tongue in wonder and said, Yang, you're really capable. I haven't seen law enforcement officers being so polite to others for a long time. They're actually so respectful to you. They even called you Young Master Chu. Even your father didn't receive such treatment. Chu Yang showed a proud expression. Needless to say, don't you know what kind of person your son is? Besides, with my father's age, it's not appropriate for them to call him Young Master Chu. Yang Rulin smiled and patted him gently. She said dotingly, shameless. Then she pulled his hand and said, come and greet your grandmother. He pulled Chu Yang over to old Mistress Yang and introduced him gleefully. Mother, this is your grandson. Take a look, he's not bad looking, right? There was a hint of old Wang praising himself for selling his melons. Old Mistress Yang immediately threw the fight at the side to the back of her mind. A smile bloomed on her old face as she scrutinized Chu Yang carefully. She said, this little fellow is really good looking. Look at this nose, these eyes, these eyebrows, this mouth, these ears, this face shape, this skin. One look and I can tell that he's Lanlin's child. He looks exactly like your mother when she was young. Come over and let Grandma take a look. Chu Feiling secretly rolled his eyes at one side. He thought, he looks exactly like your daughter and has nothing to do with me at all? This little guy obviously looks like me. Chu Yang put on a sweet smile on his face. He leaned over and called innocently, Grandmother. In his heart, he vomited at his own cuteness. Old Mistress Yang was elated. She laughed and said, what a polite child. She turned and shouted, come, bring up the gift I've prepared for my nephew. There was actually no response to her shout. She saw that the father and son were still fighting fiercely. Old Mistress Yang was furious. She shouted, are the four of you blind? Can't you see that he's back? With this shout, Chu Feilong and Yang Ruoxiong were the first to stop fighting. Chu Yang paid special attention. This bull-like brawny man had a lot of bruises on his face, but Chu Feilong's face was completely unscathed. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.